Why, hello there. How are you all? What's going on? How is everybody doing? Could y'all pretty please drop a number one off in the comment section? That way I know that, well, you can hear me and, well, I can hear you. I guess sort of. How is everybody doing? I hope y'all are doing just lovely, just wonderful, just peachy, just keen. Danny, thank you for that number one in the comment section, as well as Nikki. Thank you for that number one, and Allison, and Sweets, and Professor. Everybody, thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all, welcome, Indy, welcome, Emily, to the Sofa Squad, to the sofa. I hope y'all are doing well. Thanks for hanging out. I hope everybody had a wonderful day. I hope everybody is ready for the weekend. So, what we are doing tonight is we are going to be rewatching the hearing from Kouri Richins, and we're going to be reading those Lori Daybell, Lori Vallow Daybell, however you want to call her, the motion that she did to try and get rid of one of her cases coming up, one of her trials coming up. So there's lots going on. And yeah, Kouri Richins, I haven't followed her in a minute. Well, let me rephrase that. I haven't really talked on the channel about her in a minute. Obviously, we followed her on the channel for a while, and like more and more and more stuff is going on with that. More and more and more and more and more and more and more. So pardon me, what I want to do is just like watch this one, see what's going on, see where we're at, and just kind of watch her too. She's a very interesting person to watch. I think she gives Lori, I think she gives Sarah. So there's that. Now, if you haven't followed Kouri, she is the one, again, this is alleged, she hasn't gone to trial yet. She is the one that allegedly offed her husband and then went so far as to write a children's book about how they overcame the grieving process with that. So that's the nutshell of it. She's saying that she did not do this. There's also circumstances that her mother kind of had a situation that could have been misconstrued into the way of being like, maybe she did what her mother did to somebody. Yeah, Joshua says, Kouri made me a Moscow Mule. Should I drink it? Yeah, no, stay away from it, Joshua. We don't want you going down that same route. Yeah, there is all sorts of stuff going on with Kouri. It's bad. Cosmo says, has your snow melted yet? Yes, I should say this. Most of it did, but a lot of it's still out, but not like on the roads and stuff like that. I mean, it's basically melted, but like, there's some on the porch and the yard and places like that. So yeah. Hey, Angel. And yeah, Shannon. Yeah, she and her husband had children. So there's that. Hey, Sandy, how's it going? Hey, Northwest. So yeah, I was typing earlier. So we went to Wegmans. We ran some errands and we stopped at Wegmans. I got a salad, some soup, and some cookies, 5 of them, and I've been eating them all afternoon. So then as I was getting stuff ready for here, like I don't know how to describe it, but like I thought I had more of the cookie left. And so when I came back to sit down to get those last wonderful bites of it, I was like, I already ate the cookie. And so even though I feel sick, full with cookies, I still have that like, but my mind was geared up for one last bite. It's a very awful predicament to be in. But one that, is, I mean, obviously I'm being dramatic there, right? So, oh, I know. I love Wegmans. It's so much fun. It's just everything, the presentation, the food, everything. So yeah, but I do have a little crumble cake over there, but I'm literally so full from eating. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, they had the walnuts in them too, Jenny. They were so good. Usually I won't let myself buy cookies, but we're there and I was like, this will be my dessert. Ate them all. I already checked the pups for cookie breath. They've been sleeping, so no, it was me that ate them all. So Joshua says, fun fact, the Kouri Richins trial is going to be in the same exact courthouse as the Gwyneth Paltrow trial. There you go. There you go. Now, also a couple of the side notes. I don't know if y'all are watching. So if you're watching Dexter, Emily, I know you've been like watching or whatever, but you know, they came out with a prequel to it, and I've been watching that. Y'all, it's so good. So good. Oh my gosh. So, anyways, what we're going to do first, we're going to read through Lori's thing first, and then we'll watch the hearing. I'll speed the hearing up some because it's like an hour long, but I'll speed it up so we can like get through it or whatever. It's about suppressing evidence and that kind of thing. Now, remember, so if you haven't followed it, a lot has taken place over the years for the Kouri Richins trial. She got caught with like this pretend book that literally is like, and when I say pretend book, like a book that she was writing, again, this is allegedly in jail, but it's literally almost like a story of like her describing getting away with this or how she would do it or something like that. It's crazy. It's just next level. The whole thing. Hey, Audrey, how's it going? So there's a lot going on with that. So we're going to start kind of getting caught up with this one I'm getting at. So anyway, let me get this pulled up over here. We'll go over Miss Lori first. Okay. There you go. Okay, so now if you haven't followed Lori Daybell, she's already convicted in one state. She is going up against charges over in Arizona for 2 separate cases, 2 separate trials. One of them is Brandon Boudreaux. This is her, and how do you say it? Would be her like ex nephew-in-law. It's her niece's ex-husband. I don't know what you call that. She allegedly was part of a group that attempted to take his life. He luckily survived. Now, the other person who obviously did not survive is her ex-husband. I guess you would, I don't even know what, yeah, her ex, I mean, I don't know what you would call him. She was allegedly involved in taking his life. So they're going to do the 2, Charles Vallow. They're going to do the trials separately. So there's that. That's where we're at. Okay, so Lori is representing herself. This has gone through. So she's already started like pumping out some, filings and whatnot. Justin Lum recently put this out. And so she's putting this out. She's basically saying like, hey, get rid of this because of XYZ. There's a quick thing over it. We'll go over it now. And I'm going to pull up on my screen so I can actually read it because my eyesight's not that good right now. Okay, so you see what? Let me expand it. Okay, how? There we go. So this is a motion to dismiss. You see where it says a little X up there for self. So the state of Arizona versus Lori Daybell. This is for a lack of speedy trial. And it says the defendant, Lori Daybell, requests this court to dismiss the case, and it lists her number with prejudice. Facts. Number 1. Thank you very much. The defendant was extradited from Idaho on November 30th. I think it's 2024, obviously, to Arizona. The defendant was arraigned for 2 separate charges on December 7th, 2023. Oh, wait, maybe that was supposed to be November 30th, 2023. It looks like 2025 to me. Anyways, we know it's not 2025. So, separate charges on December 7th, 2023. A trial date was set at that time for a speedy trial on April 1st, 2024. A speedy trial, something past commence. I can't read that word. Something commence within 150 days. Okay. Let me just expand this. Number 4, the judge deemed those charges complex, which gives the state 270 days to the defendant to give the defendant a speedy trial. Number 5, the new trial date was set for August 1st, 2024, with the last possible date to begin trial September 2nd, 2024, to be in compliance with a speedy trial within 270 days. The former defense team filed a motion for continuance, which the defendant objected to on the record, but it was granted, and a new trial date was set for February 24th, 2025. A Rule 11 was also filed by former defense team, further delaying the trial, and a new trial date of March 31st, 2025 was set. It has now been 314 days since the defendant was arraigned On January 10th, 2025, Judge Boreski declined to set a trial date on, she lists the case number. The trial date that is set on March 31st, 2025 is for, she lists the case number only. It is the position of this defense that no trial date has ever been set for, and she lists the case number. The state of Arizona has had plenty of time to figure this out. At no time has the state ever been willing to combine these two charges into one trial. The state has maintained from the beginning that there will be two separate trials with two separate juries. Number one, A, therefore, why did they not schedule two trials in the arraignment? B, why did the state arraign the defendant for both cases on the same day, knowing that they could not provide two separate speedy trials? C, the state had 5 years to figure this out. D, if the state would have arraigned the defendant on one charge and then arraigned the defendant on the second charge 1 month later, then two speedy trials could have been maintained. The state failed to do so. By March 31st, 2025, it would have been 394 days since the defendant was arraigned. The defendant was never, and I underline never, waived her right to a speedy trial. The Sixth Amendment declares, oh, good Lord, here we go with this. Please be with me. The Sixth Amendment of the United States Constitution declares, here we go. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. In the state of Arizona, the designated speedy trial is to be within 150 days of arraignment. If the case is deemed complex, then this date of a speedy trial is extended to 270 days from the arraignment. No trial has ever been scheduled for, and it lists the thing. Therefore, the defendant's constitutional rights have been completely violated by the state of Arizona. The only remedy to this violation of the defendant's constitutional rights to a speedy trial is to dismiss the case with prejudice. At no time has a trial been given for, and she lists the case number. At no time has a trial ever been scheduled for, and she lists the case number. The defendant's constitutional rights have been violated. The government must follow its own rules. An evidentiary hearing is certainly requested. Wow. In so many words, I think that she feels like she told them off. Nanny and nanny a boo-boo, a stick your head and a doo-doo. That's literally the vibe she gives. Oh my gosh. Now I'm curious. I mean, obviously, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but I am curious, like, say, the legality part of it. I'm like, okay, so, like, what do you do with this? You know what I mean? Like, is this something that she has legitimate concern about? Because I'm kind of like, if that's how it goes and that's what it is, then maybe she has a point. You know what I mean? But I mean, I'm sure. So here's my thinking too. I'm like, I'm sure they're going to find some way to be like, nah, we are going to do this over here. Because I do remember now. So if you watch that hearing where the last hearing, I think we watched over here, I made a video on it, something of she being, how do you say it? Like, hey, what are we doing here? She asked at the end about this, right? And they're like, oh, I forget what they say, but they address this issue, saying that they're going to do two separate things or whatever. So I mean, I'll be curious to see what happens. Please hold. I mean, we're lucky that she didn't write a book. Hers is kind of sweet and to the point. Now, here's the thing too, that like really her and Sarah, I'm sure others, they do have that nanny nanny boo boo vibe, that sound, right? Okay, wait, Northwest says Arizona lawyers said no way. Most delays are attributable to defense. Okay. Yeah, Josh says the whole thing about what makes me mad is that Arizona took Charles's death seriously. I know, right? It's sad. Hold on. Mariana says her own defense got one continuance, so it is dicey. Not sure what the law is, whether it has to be dismissed with prejudice. First of all, Elaine, thank you for the super chat. Elaine says, as a non-lawyer, I'm sure real lawyers will tell her to shut the what up. I'm sure they're going to find some way, right? So hey DH, how's it going? So we'll see, right? Again, I just feel like what's going to happen is no matter what, she's going to have this trial in March, and it is going to be like yikes. And no, and Melanie, I can't remember who just asked the question, but they asked if oh, hey Dwayne, how's it going? I'm glad you said that. I didn't know it was you. So if Melanie has been charged yet, Denise, no, I don't think she will be. If you followed this case for a long time and you saw, like, especially for me, watching the videos when the cops went and intercepted Melanie from trying to go to Brandon, was it his parents' house over the kid situation? I mean, just doing like crazy stuff. It has not been proven, but, and again, so this is allegedly, and these are just my thoughts, Brandon was kind of hiding out, and not many people knew where he was supposed to be at. So the fact that whoever was in the Jeep where the bullets came from, that luckily missed him, cough, cough, I couldn't imagine who that would be. It was like how did they know where he was living unless Melanie told them? Okay. Yeah, Sandy says, I think her baby's 100%. Absolutely agree with you. Oh, thank you, Emily, for gifting 10 memberships. Northwest, yay, you got one. Woo. So again, we're just gonna have to say, I think it's gonna be what show. And I think that she's going to victimize a lot of the family members. And I think, I still don't know. Has anybody know? Drop in the comments. Have we figured out? Oh, thanks for being a member, Dwayne, for 11 months. Woohoo! Have we figured out if, how do you say it? I just lost my train of thought. I just went off on a tangent there. What was I going to say? Oh, if she can interview or question Chad, can she get Chad up on the stand? Is that a thing? Do we know? Yeah. Northwest says lots of pre-trial witness interviews with Chad, my guess. See, that's what I'm thinking too. I think that's why she's like, oh, it's fine. We'll just go ahead and march. We don't really care if we're ready for it or not. She probably can. I mean, yikes. Yes, Chad is a possible witness. Oh, man, y'all, it's gonna be. I mean, let me tell you what. If she gets Chad on the stand, I tell you what. I'm talking all eyes on that, right? By Zoom. Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. Oh, thanks for joining. Real happy. She's going to be sultry with Chad. I can just already see it. I can hear the way she's going to talk in my head right now. And she's probably going to like slide like the whole and I have a hard time saying this word, but the fetishization, or what I'm saying, of selling books. Like she'll somehow throw that in there. Like, did you claim that I sold numerous books for you? All night long. What I'm saying? Like that whole weird thing that they have about that. I want to see her get Melanie Gibb on the stand. Like, question her. That would be good, right? That would be good. She would have some things to say. Okay. Oh, and a bookworm says, I want to hear you read the transcript of Lori deposing Chad. Man, that would be good. That would be good. Bible verse battle, 100%. Yeah, do you miss me, stud muffin? I mean, it's gonna be it'd be interesting to see his vibe towards Lori. You know what I mean? Like to see if he's still like, Lori, hello, my love, my loin. You know what I mean? Or if he's just more like business, like, I can't believe she's got me behind bars for the rest of my life. You know? So there you go. Pardon me. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Kouri thing now. We're going to rewatch it or whatever. Now, one thing with this, I want y'all to help me out here for a second to make sure that y'all can hear it. So let me get up on the screen first. Please hold. Yeah. Shannon says, hi, Lori. It's me, Storm. See, I think that they would be doing stuff like that too. Like, kind of like in their world, secretly talking to each other, but like we would know what's going on, right? Like, well, I don't know, Lori. I don't remember. It was storming really hard that evening. It clouded my memory. The long, deep, hard storm. You know, and then everybody in the audience would be like, can we please get an ice bucket and throw that for God's sakes? Somebody hose them down, right? I mean, come on now. My word. Yep, same here. Jenny says, pardon me. Jenny says, I don't understand how Lori didn't run. I don't know. The only thing that I'm thinking that was like a turn on to her is the power and the representation of what he came with. Because I guess in their world, Chad was like a big deal, maybe. I don't see how. And I think she was smitten with that, like almost like, I don't know how you would say it, but like that's what she wanted from him. You see what I'm saying? Like it was like the two things combined. I don't know. Yeah, the portal. Yeah. You know what? And Kayla says, is that her sole motivation for it to represent herself? I think it could be part of it to get like the last word in, to see Chad to do this. I have no idea. Hey, Amy, how's it going? Yeah, Styles says it was a cheerleader falling for the geek and Chad was smitten. Oh, yeah, definitely Chad. I mean, this was like, you know, he had lived this kind of very quiet, we farm potatoes, you know, bland kind of life. You know, I write these books, and then Lori comes along who's like, you know, all these things or whatever. And it was, you know, sultry, it was hot, it was this, it was that. Yeah. Hey, Donna. Yeah, Chad Northwest says Chad made her feel special. Yeah. Hello at the end of the day. My name's still Paul. Yeah, this is her last chance. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Andy says she doesn't have enough sense to see through her under the. She wants. I don't know, where'd you go? The Lori to show the torture. Oh yeah, she's gonna 100%. I agree, Andy. She's gonna 100% torture Kane Larry. 100%. Dwayne says, I wonder how Chad's porthole is failing. I know. I mean, but that's the thing too. You have to wonder. Like, has anybody heard any kind of like what's going on with him behind bars? These are not good charges to be behind bars on, right? Pardon me. Hey, John, how's it going? Oh, side note, John, I just thought of it, seeing your name. Tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, the members book club, where we're talking about Sherry's book, our little monthly meeting or whatever. I've also already started reading a Foreign Faction, so just side note on that. We'll talk about it more, and I'll post it tonight, after this, or in the morning. Okay, so I'm going to put up. Where does it go? Where does it go? Where does it go? I am looking for Kouri. I am looking for Kouri. Hello, not Lori, but Kouri. The Kouri and the Lori show. I should have named the thumbnail that. Okay, so share. Where y'all at? I said, boom, boom, boom. Let me hear you say, wayo. Okay. Now, I am going to do a test because I have these two things plugged in and I want to see how y'all can hear. So I'm going to come over here. Well, I'm going to press play. That's the wrong thing. This is the button to hit.
Richins. Can I have counsel for the state make
Okay,
their appearance?
it is playing.
Morning,
Can y'all
Brad
hear
Bloodworth, Lindsay Shervanack, Margaret Olson, Joseph Hill, and Fred Burmester for the state.
Welcome to all of you. For the defense, please.
Wendy Lewis, Catherine Nestor, and Alexander Ramos, and Ms. Richins is present.
Good morning, Ms. Richins.
And you can hear it just fine.
All right, we're here for an evidentiary hearing on 3 motions to suppress. We previously had a discussion on the...
Okay, so I'm going to pause it for a second to catch you up or whatever. So again, this is the Kouri Richins hearing. This is some motions to suppress evidence. I have not watched this yet, so I was basically holding off to watch it with y'all. Like the lawyer that I hadn't read through the lawyer thing yet. I mean, I posted on my community page or something, but I hadn't gone through it, so I was holding off to watch with y'all. So that's what we're doing now. I'm going to press play, and then I'll come over to the screen with y'all.
Record regarding initial burdens. I've made notes on the motions that match that discussion. Which motion do you all want to handle first, or is there an agreed order of events?
Your Honor, there's an agreed order that roughly follows chronology. The first is the motion to suppress statements and evidence. The state, for 3 of the 4 issues raised in that motion, bears the burden, so we've agreed that the state will just go first on that. The second motion is the motion to suppress electronic data. The defense bears the burden on that motion. The defense will go first on that. The third in order is the motion to suppress the letter. Again, the defense bears the burden. They will go first.
Who is the state's first witness?
Your Honor, the state's first witness is Detective Eric Maynard. But before we get there, the state would like to move into evidence what we have previously marked as exhibits 1 through 149. Move into evidence for the purpose of this hearing only.
Is there a stipulation to that effect?
Your Honor, we got these exhibits at like 10:30 last night. I was already asleep. So can we just do that at the end? I mean, whatever he ends up using. I don't expect we're going to object to any of these, but just because I haven't gone through them all, can we just come?
It would be helpful to me to have a record of what's being offered through which witness so I can understand and have some notes. Any objection?
Your Honor, in a sense, the state is offering them into evidence now, kind of considering both the evidentiary standard for a hearing like this under 1101 referring back to 104. The state does not intend to address most of these exhibits today. Rather than the state is moving them into evidence to use them to reference in our follow-on papers.
I appreciate that. Are you going to be laying any foundation for the ones you don't expressly reference today? For example, there are, it appears, numerous either transcripts or notes from telephone calls. Is somebody going to talk about where those came from or when they were secured?
Your Honor, we can. All the phone calls referenced are jail phone calls using HomeWave, the jail phone call system, which, I don't know, we have laid foundation for several times throughout the course of the proceedings.
Right.
I think kind of the only, to my mind, audio and video recordings that we haven't discussed in other proceedings in some fashion are a video recording by Detective Maynard, an audio recording by Detective Woody, and a video recording by Detective O'Driscoll. I will address each of those recordings in my examination of those witnesses.
I appreciate all of that. I guess it's up to the state to proceed how you want, but I'd hate to see you miss a short opportunity to lay some basic foundation for some things that you want to refer to in the briefing, rather than just call a witness who can say, this is how this stuff was gathered. You need to provide some foundation for reliability. It doesn't need to meet the formal admissibility threshold that would be required under a formal application of the rules of evidence. There has to be some foundation for reliability.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I guess to some edge we can do it. I think mostly we're talking about warrants, self-authenticating documents.
Sure.
I'll bear that in mind.
Okay.
I appreciate that the defense didn't get notice of these exhibits until after I was in bed last night. Also, please bear in mind that the defense's moving papers are somewhat vague and uncertain. And rather than litigate their sufficiency under Rule 12, the state has decided, perhaps at some risk, but the state has decided to just roll with this. And in doing that, it is unclear precisely what evidence we will need to respond to the defense's motions, because at this point, I don't think we're really on proper notice. So we have taken an expansive view with the hope that we have swept up all the evidence we may need. That, of course, will be ultimately determined once we receive more substantive papers from the defense.
We'll see where this goes. The defense certainly is reserving its objections based on regarding the reliability of the state's evidence, and we'll see how it shakes out. Okay, with that, go ahead.
One more, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Not only is there 1 through 149, as we have done in the litigation so far, there are certain documents on the court's docket that we will be referring to throughout today. For example, 214 is the walk the dog letter.
Understood.
And we will refer to in our opposition papers.
Okay, understood.
Your Honor, subject to the off-the-record discussion this morning, the state calls Detective Eric Maynard.
Okay, I'm going to adjust that a little bit. On the record, but sealed discussion we had this morning. Sam, I need you to stop video recording for a moment. Thank you. There will still be an audio record of Detective Maynard's testimony. Ms. Nesser, you're looking at me. You ready to go? Okay, let's call Detective Maynard. Dad, will you let Detective Maynard know we can have him in now? Thank you. It's okay. Mr. Bloodworth, are we ready to go?
Yes, Your Honor, we're ready to call Detective Woody.
Okay. Brittany, are we on the record? All right, let's call the state's next witness, please.
Your Honor, the state calls Detective Jamie Woody.
Detective, if you'd step in front of Brittany, we'll get you sworn in.
You'll please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. Have a seat.
Good afternoon, Detective Woody.
Good afternoon.
Are you a K-9 patrol deputy with the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
I am.
Back on April the 13th, 2022, were you a detective with the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
I was.
And at that time, were you the lead detective investigating the death of Eric Richins?
Yes, sir.
And at about 10 o'clock on the morning of April the 13th, 2022, were you preparing to execute a search warrant on the Willow Court address where Ms. Richins then resided and on the defendant's person?
I was.
At about 10 a.m. that morning, where were you physically preparing to execute that warrant?
At the sheriff's office.
And were you planning how you were going to execute the warrant at that time?
We were.
Did there come a time right about 10 o'clock when you received word that Deputy Maynard had stopped the defendant a short distance from her home?
Yes.
What did you do upon receiving that word?
I proceeded over to that location.
To the location of the stop?
Correct.
Once you were at the location of the stop, what did you observe?
I observed Kouri in the vehicle, the detective's vehicle.
And was she in the front passenger seat?
I believe so, yes.
Did you record this interaction with the defendant at all?
I did an audio recording.
Have you recently reviewed that audio recording?
I have.
And is that audio recording a fair and accurate representation, meaning it's not been altered at all?
Correct.
Your Honor, that audio recording is found at Exhibit 5 in the state's binder. A transcript of that audio recording is found at Exhibit 6. At any time during this interaction with the defendant, did you observe her in handcuffs?
No.
Did you place her under arrest?
I did not.
Did you observe her crying? Did you observe any tears?
I did not observe any tears, but she sounded like she was crying.
But no tears?
No.
Do you recall a time when you asked the defendant if she wanted to come with you and grab her cell phone?
I do.
What happened then?
We walked over to her car, and I believe she reached in and grabbed the phone and handed it to me.
When she handed you the phone, or as she was handing you the phone, do you recall a discussion about the phone's case?
I do.
Can you turn There's an exhibit binder in front of you. You can turn, please, to tab 6 of that exhibit binder. Is that a transcript of the audio recording of your interaction at this time and date with the defendant?
Yes, sir.
Can you turn, please, to page 11, look at line 1, right at the very top, where you say, do you want to come with me and grab your phone real quick?
Okay.
And is that the point where she exited Detective Maynard's truck and walked with you to her car
Correct.
and reached into her car and retrieved her telephone?
Yes, sir.
Do you see down at line 11 where you asked, do you want to take it out of the case or not?
Yeah, I see that.
At the point you ask that, who is holding the phone?
Kouri is.
And why did you ask her if she wanted to take the phone out of the case?
I usually ask that if there's something attached to it, cards, driver's license, something like that, that I don't want to take with me.
Ultimately, she did not remove the phone from the case?
Not that I recall.
And after you asked her, do you want to remove the phone from the case, that is when she handed you the phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please turn the page to 12. I want to clarify one thing. On line 9, it talks about an unidentified male speaker. Is that male speaker Detective Maynard?
It is.
At line 10, you say, kind of in a conversation that's unclear, I'm looking to clarify it here. You say, give you that, and then I. Is that in line 10 the cell phone?
Check the leading.
Overruled.
Correct.
If you could please read below to line 13. At this point in time, it appears you're speaking to the defendant. You say, then he'll follow you back and you can do that. Is the he'll Detective Maynard in that sentence?
It is.
Is the that provide you with phone numbers out of your cell phone?
Correct.
After your audio recording, where do you go?
I go over to Becky's house.
And Becky was Becky an employee of Eric Richins' company that had some electronic devices that you were interested in recovering?
Yes, sir.
And is Becky's house right in front or right off the street where Detective Maynard stopped the defendant?
It was.
So you wanted to walk straight from the stop kind of to the closest house
Correct.
to retrieve some electronic gear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When your audio recording stops, do you have any other interaction with the defendant at the location of Detective Maynard's stop?
Not that I recall.
When do you next have any interaction with the defendant?
At the home, at the Willow, I think it's Willow Court.
The Vallow Court address. Okay. What interaction do you have with the defendant at the Vallow Court address?
I believe we asked if she would either provide the safe code or open the safe up at home.
And did she?
She did. She wanted to ask a few questions and ask about the warrant and what we found and stuff.
Okay, set the scene. What are you doing at the home?
I'm walking around trying to help serve the search warrant.
At this point in time, other than asking for a safe code, are you at all questioning the defendant?
No, sir.
You said she was asking you questions. What does this look like? What are you doing and how is she asking you questions?
We're just kind of walking back and forth to the safes, and she's kind of following behind me, asking different questions.
What types of questions?
Questions about the warrant. I think questions about what we were looking for, what we found, things like that.
At this point in time, what was your interest at the house?
Just to serve the warrant.
At this point in time, were you at all wanting to interact with the defendant?
No, sir.
What did you want to do?
I just wanted to serve the warrant and finish it.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Nestor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kathy Nestor. I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Richins. I do have some questions for you today.
Okay.
I want to talk about the search of the home. You were the person that went and asked the judge to issue a warrant, correct?
Correct.
And the way that process works is you fill out an affidavit of a sworn affidavit saying all the facts that you believe support a search of a home. Is that right?
Correct.
And you specifically tell the judge what it is you would like to search, correct?
Correct.
I'm sorry. And then you also tell the judge what you're looking for generally, right?
Correct.
To try to keep it narrow as you can, right?
Correct.
And in this case, before you all showed up at the house and executed these warrants, at that point you had gotten 2 warrants. Is that right? Signed by judges.
I believe so.
Okay. The first warrant you got maybe 2 days before that authorized a search for fentanyl and any kind of mailing or tracking instruments that would indicate purchasing something, right?
I believe so.
And then the second warrant you got, and again before you executed, was asking to search the home and Ms. Richins' person for electronics such as phones, computers, things like that. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Neither of those warrants did you seek authority to search a vehicle. Is that right?
Not in those 2 that I remember.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you went back later while you're in the middle of your search and asked a judge to issue a third warrant authorizing you to search vehicles. Is that right?
That sounds correct.
And do you remember what time you did that?
I do not.
And was that warrant issued?
I believe so, yes.
And did you go ask for that to be issued after you got back to the house, after you had already talked to Kouri with with Detective Maynard?
Yes, it was after we left the stop.
So at the time that you got the phone out of Kouri's vehicle, you did not have a warrant authorizing the search of any vehicle. Is that right?
I didn't get the phone out of the car.
Okay. We'll get to that in a minute.
Oh,
When
okay.
you were at the car with Kouri,
Uh-huh.
you did not have a warrant authorizing you to search a vehicle, correct?
No, ma'am.
And in fact, you knew you needed another warrant because later that day you went back and got another one, right? That authorized vehicles.
Objection, Your Honor. That needed another warrant is unclear as to why she needed another indication that she needed another warrant to search the car is unfounded.
I'm going to allow you to answer the question. I can weigh the testimony as needed. Do you need it or repeat it?
I do.
Okay, so you knew you needed a third warrant to be able to search vehicles and actually went back and got a third warrant, correct?
For the vehicles at the house, yes.
Correct. Okay. All right, I want to talk about when you first arrived, where Ms. Richins was seated in the vehicle. You had an audio recorder on,
Yes, ma'am.
but not video.
I did not.
And the transcript the government has referred to, the state, I'm so sorry, but the state has referred to, is it in front of you?
Mhm.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so can we turn to page, let's see here. All right, can we turn to page 7? Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry.
Are you looking at exhibit? Is this exhibit 1?
6, Your Honor.
6, yes, 6. Sorry, I should have said that. Thank you, Your Honor. Let me back up even further than that. Just a minute. Okay, so let's go to page 3, where Kouri's asking you what's going on. And starting at line 7, what do you tell her the purpose of your search is?
To make sure that there's nothing there, there's nothing dangerous, and there's nothing dangerous for her and the kids.
And when you say nothing dangerous, you were talking about what?
Drugs.
Specifically, what kind of drugs?
I don't know if it says in the warrant or not, but in this instance, I was talking about fentanyl.
Fentanyl. So you're telling her that you're checking to make sure there's no dangerous fentanyl in her house that can harm her or her children. Is that right?
Correct.
And in fact, you guys kind of had a conversation about how if there's just any little bit of fentanyl, it can be super dangerous, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then if you could go to page 5. No, I'm sorry, not page 5. I think it's page 7. Sorry, page 7. Line 16. And you ask her, do you have a phone with you? Is that right?
Correct.
And this is when she's still sitting in the car being
Correct.
detained, right? And then she answers, I have my phone. Yeah. And what do you ask her?
I asked her, is it in your pocket?
And what does she say?
She says, we have phones. We have no, it's in my car.
It's in my car. Okay. So there's really no dispute that at the point she's sitting in that car, it was not on her person, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then if you go forward to page 11 at the very top, you say to her, do you want to come with me and grab your phone real quick? Is that right?
Correct.
All right. Prior to that, did you ever give her Miranda rights?
I did not.
Did you ever tell her that she had an option whether she cooperated with you or not?
I don't believe I did say anything like that.
What were you wearing that day?
I was wearing a blue shirt, like a polo, and a black jacket, and I usually had either gray or khaki pants.
Right. And on that blue shirt, there's an insignia for the Summit County Sheriff's Department. Is that right?
Correct, but it's covered by the jacket.
And the jacket identifies you as law
It
enforcement?
does not.
It's not. Did you tell her? She knows you're law enforcement, right?
She should, yes.
Because you guys had talked before.
We have, yes.
You had asked her to be interviewed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you knew she had a lawyer
Correct.
because you had talked to her lawyer about arranging an interview with her.
Correct.
And you knew she had a lawyer at the time you were talking to her that day out on the street, right?
Correct.
And did you advise her she had a right to call that lawyer and get advice?
I did not.
Right. And then on the last page, page 12, I'm sorry, you guys walked to the car. Is that right? Together?
Correct.
Where were you standing when you guys walked to the car?
I don't remember.
And when you got to the car, where was the phone?
I don't remember.
It wasn't on her. It was in the car.
Correct.
And you asked her to hand you the phone. Is that right?
Your Honor, again, this is recorded, or I guess it depends where.
The transcript says what it says. What's your question, Ms. Nestor?
You asked her to hand you the phone.
I would have to look. I can't remember
Okay.
exactly what I said.
Let's look at page 11, where you say, do you want to take it out of the case or not? Right?
Correct.
And then you take the phone from her. So you didn't even ask her. You just took it. Because it looks like you're not asking her. You just take it from her.
No, I asked if she wanted the case, and then she handed it towards me.
Okay. And did you tell her before that she didn't have to?
I did not.
And when she handed you her phone, you then told her that Detective Maynard would follow her back to the house. Is that right?
I'd have to look. I may have.
Look at the last page, page 12.
Correct. I did say he would follow you back.
And he did follow her back, did he not?
I assume so. I wasn't there at that point. I don't think.
Oh, because you'd gone to Becky's house?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you arrive? Were you in a police car when you got there, or a sheriff's car?
I assume I was in my unmarked vehicle.
So at what point did you give the phone back to Detective Maynard?
Would have been probably when we walked back towards his car, towards where he was standing.
You say probably. Do you remember?
I'd have to look at this to remember exactly when and what I said.
So if it doesn't say here, you don't remember?
Some things I do, yes.
Do you remember when you handed in the phone?
When I walked back to the car.
How long did it take for you to get back to the house?
I am not sure.
When you got back to the house, did you ever take the phone back from Detective Maynard?
At some point, I did.
Did he advise you that he had obtained the passcode from Ms. Richins?
I don't recall.
Do you know what you did with the phone when you got it back?
At some point, I would have taken it back and put it into evidence.
Okay, but you don't remember.
No, ma'am.
That's fair. I know it was a while ago. Just trying to get the difference between what you remember and what you don't. Okay. So at some point you said you had another conversation with Kouri where she helped you go to the safes in the house. Is that right?
Correct.
In fact, did you go out and ask her to come in and open the safes?
I believe I asked if she would provide either the code or open the safe so that we didn't have to damage them.
And when you did that, did you advise her she had a right to refuse?
I did not.
Had she been Mirandized to that point?
She did not.
How
That I
many,
know of.
how many police officers were on the scene or sheriffs were on the scene while you guys were doing that search?
I'm not sure.
Help you with that. Sorry, just 1 minute, Your Honor. Were there more than 10?
I'm not sure.
Were there more than 5?
More than likely.
All right, so you asked her to open up the safes. You mentioned that while you were going from place to place in the house, before you went in the house, where was she when you asked her to open up the safes?
I believe she was in her car or a car.
And when you asked her to open up the safes, you guys went inside the house and you also went in the garage and the removed garage. There's kind of 2 garages, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You mentioned when Mr. Bloodworth was talking to you that she was asking you questions about what you had found. Is that right?
Correct.
Was she asking you if you had found any dangerous fentanyl that was a danger to her or her sons?
I believe she was asking that, yeah.
All right. Okay. At what point were you removed from this case?
I left a little while after I got the dog, so I'm not sure what date or anything that would be.
When you first got this case, you're from a small town, is that right?
Correct.
And I'm not going to say it, but you knew the Richins family before all this happened, right?
1 second.
Objection, Your Honor. This is far afield of the scope of the pending motion.
Those are
I'm
kind
a
of,
little confused where we're going.
give me just a little bit of leeway, and I think I'll show you. Just give me a couple more questions.
You got to give it a name, though. Is this
It's credibility.
I'll give you a limited leeway.
So you knew the Richins family before you were investigating this case, is that right?
No, I don't think I knew any of these guys. There's a lot of Richins that live there, but I don't think these guys specifically.
You did not?
Not that I recall dealing with them.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have on that, Your Honor. See, just a moment. I think I'm almost finished. Oh, after you guys did the search on the house, you heard from the defendant's lawyer, did you not?
I don't recall.
May I approach,
Objection,
Your Honor?
Again, anything that happened post-search is irrelevant to the pending motion.
Your Honor, this is because we're going to have a little bit later today a challenge to Detective O'Driscoll's interview of Ms. Richins when she was uncounseled. And this is the individual that got the assertion from the lawyer. And so I'm just laying a foundation for when I do O'Driscoll later.
Proffer the assertion.
I do. I have it.
What is it, though? Help me understand.
Oh, that her lawyer asserted Sixth Amendment rights and told them not to speak to her client again.
Will allow them to lay this foundation
Your Honor, we're going to have to put a lot of objections onto the record here.
I'm a little bit blind here, so if you can just provide a little context.
So As Ms. Nestor just said, she's making a Sixth Amendment challenge to a later interview. That later interview was conducted on April the 14th, 2022. By April the 14th, 2022, or on April the 14th, 2022, judicial proceedings had not begun. Thus, the Sixth Amendment had not attached. Therefore, any discussion about a Sixth Amendment violation is irrelevant. The Sixth Amendment right to counsel had not yet attached.
Okay. We still have, well, I don't know what Detective O'Driscoll is going to say. This sounds like 2 or 3 questions. Am I right?
Uh-huh.
I'm going to allow some limited latitude here. We'll see if it matters or not later.
Okay, Your Honor.
What I understand Ms. Nestor is going to ask about is a communication or 2 sent to her by Ms. Richins' prior counsel. Correct, Ms. Nestor?
Yes, sir.
And after that, are we done?
Yes.
This seems reasonable, even if ultimately irrelevant.
I am trying to comply with your request that we lay foundations through the appropriate witnesses.
Sure.
So that's, I mean, this would have been part of the case file at the time she left and O'Driscoll took over.
I guess what I'm saying is, why don't we just let these 2 questions come in and then we'll see if we need to ever address this again.
Fair, Your Honor. The state would not object to the admission of these emails. The only thing the state would say is there is also metadata that attaches to the emails that, to the extent the metadata becomes relevant, it's in discovery, of course.
And if we need to get into that, we
Consider
can.
that.
Is there any reason to suspect that the header of the email regarding to, from, and time and date is incorrect?
No, Your Honor,
Okay.
that's not.
Can I just see him, Ms. Nestor?
Your Honor, this is going to be 152.
Thank you. Oh my,
Thank you.
very small type.
Take just a minute. Detective Woody, Deputy Woody. Are you still detective? I want to call you the right title.
Just deputy.
Deputy. Will you take a minute to review that and see if those look familiar to you? And I'll give you just a minute and then I'll ask you about them. Okay. Can Mr. Bloodworth borrow that copy for 1 second?
In just a moment, my apologies.
Well, yeah, gotcha.
Just let me know when you're ready. I don't want to rush you.
Okay.
Oh, I was talking to her. Sorry, not
No,
you.
it's okay. You would hand this to Mr. Bloodworth for me. That's fine.
I've scanned through it.
Okay.
So I can,
Does it ring a bell? Do you vaguely remember it?
Yeah.
Okay. And as I understand it, that is an email and letters that were forwarded to you as the case investigator, informing you that the lawyer did not want Ms. Richins spoken to again outside the presence of counsel. Is that right?
that's what it
Your
looks
Honor,
like.
objection, that mischaracterizes the emails.
The email says what it says. Can we just have some foundation as to whether or not that email ever made its way through this witness to Detective O'Driscoll?
My next question.
Okay, let's just get that out and then we can move on.
When you got this email and these letters, what did you do with them?
A while ago, I don't remember. I probably showed my boss, I would assume.
Who was your boss?
Back then, it would have been probably Detective Davis, maybe?
Davis. And is it your practice that when you get case documents that are related to a case that you take them home or throw them away? What do you do with them?
Generally, they go into a case file.
And did you have a case file on Ms. Richins?
There was a case file, yes.
Physical file
Yes.
that was yours as the chief investigator?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you put those documents in there?
I believe I did, but I can't answer for sure.
And when you left the case, did you provide all of your materials to Detective O'Driscoll?
I did.
Really quickly to go, that's all I have on that, Your Honor. And we do offer 152.
152 has been offered.
To go back to the warrant, when you came up on Kouri, when she was in Detective Maynard's car, did you ever serve a copy of the warrant on her so she could see that you had a search warrant?
Not at the car, no.
Did you ever give her a copy of the warrant?
We did, yes.
When?
I'm not sure. I know she had a copy at the house, but I don't know when.
And is there some reason that you quit working on this case other than you're wanting to go train your dog?
No, I didn't have enough time for the dog, pretty much.
I respect that. I think that's all I have, Your Honor. Just a moment.
I just need to get that back from you when you're done, Mr. Bloodworth, to add it to the exhibits. Thank you. Let Ms. Nestor check with co-counsel and then we'll.
Yeah.
Your Honor, we tender the witness. Thank you.
Mr. Bloodworth, anything further?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, may we release this witness, counsel?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you're free to go. Thank you.
Yes,
Mr. Bloodworth, does this conclude the state's initial case or do you have more witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the state has 2 more witnesses.
Rough estimate of how much time you have with the first of those people?
15 minutes.
Why don't we call that person?
Okay.
Yeah.
Your Honor, the state calls lead crime team investigator Chelsea Gibson.
Okay.
We're just kind of waiting to see what happens next. She's having some water. She's having some water. The person behind the screen, look at that woman. She's like, oh my God, I'm on camera. Yeah, Kouri still, I mean, I'm really surprised. She
Maybe
looked.
calling somebody else.
Okay, here we go.
Maybe taking a lunch break. Zag, is Chelsea in the lobby?
No, there's miscommunication. She's right.
That's okay.
Yeah, Your Honor,
That's fine.
when we thought we were
Yeah.
going to break for lunch, we sent her back to her office.
Would you like to take a break now? Would that be better for everybody? We have to take one eventually.
Your Honor, I think we do it. I should be here in a minute.
Okay, sounds good.
Honey
Ms.
bun
Nestor, Ms.
break.
Lucy, okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
He doesn't eat.
He doesn't eat, yeah. We don't feed him.
I'm just convinced that you're running the show.
She's like, look, so the best way to do it is you put the fentanyl in first, then you stir the drink. He's like, but what if I do ice? Will it stick to the ice? No, absolutely not. Don't do the ice. That will mess you up. I tried that twice before. Didn't work. Didn't work at all. Yeah, stick with me. Stick with me. Obviously, I'm here. So, you know, obviously I'm here. It's like, what if I crush up a bunch of trazodone, then put it in the drink, shake it, then put the ice in there? Okay, I've got you. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Might not be here if I'd done that. How about that? Might not be here. Yes, I mean, here's the recipe right here. Yeah, you're right. Oh my God, I didn't think about that. Next time. Next time. I mean, not that I'm planning on this or anything. I do love my new husband, but literally everybody is so bored. I know, right? Trazodone would be like, you need a jug, right?
Ms. Gibson, if you'll step in front of Brittany, we'll get you sworn in. Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the
Seriously?
truth, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you. Please have a seat.
Mr. Bloodworth, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gibson, are you the lead crime scene investigator from the County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
And have you been a crime scene investigator with the office since, at minimum, April the 13th, 2022? As a crime scene investigator for the Sheriff's Office, your duties include phone extractions.
Yes, I do.
What computer forensic tool does the Sheriff's Office use for phone?
Celebrate.
What training and
Celebrate.
experience do you have in using Celebrite?
I'm certified in downloading and analyzing the phones.
And approximately how many phones have you downloaded?
50.
Are you familiar with the defendant's phone taken into evidence on April the 13th, 2022?
Yes.
How are you familiar with that phone?
It was booked into evidence.
And were you the crime scene investigator that took it into evidence or runs that evidence room or whatever?
Correct.
Was that phone an white iPhone Model 12 with an IMEI number ending in 2558?
Yes, it was.
Did there come a time when the Celebrite forensic tool that the Sheriff's Office used had the capability to extract data from an iPhone Model 12 without using a password?
Yes.
At what point in time did the Sheriff's Office have that ability?
December of 22.
Did there come a time when the Sheriff's Office or a partner law enforcement agency extracted the data from that iPhone Model 12 IMEI 2558 without using a passcode? When did that occur?
September of 24.
And did that extraction occur pursuant to a warrant issued on September the 27th, 2024?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Nestor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kathy Nestor. I'm one of the attorneys representing Ms. Richins. I do have a couple of questions for you. So do you work in the Regional Computer Forensics Lab?
No.
So you actually work for Summit County Sheriff?
Correct.
And I heard Mr. Bloodworth ask you, are you the one who took this phone into evidence? Can you expound on that for me? What was your connection? What did you do with this phone?
So when phones are brought to
the sheriff's office. I manage the evidence room.
Keep going. I'm sorry. I just need to grab that. You're good. Keep going.
From what I recall, Detective Woody at the time booked it into evidence, placed it into a locker, and then once it's in the locker, then I take custody of it and put it into evidence storage.
And you, every time you touch a piece of evidence, you guys keep a log. It's called a chain of custody form. Is that right?
Correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Your Honor, we would mark this number 150.
All right. What is it?
It's a chain of custody form. Your Honor.
Okay, give us one moment.
Deputy Gibson, I'm handing you a document that's marked as a chain of custody form, I guess.
Yes.
Can you look at that and tell me if it looks familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
Is that your handwriting on it?
Yes, it is.
And can you explain what this document is?
It is releasing the phone from me to Detective Crowley to RCFL, back and forth all the way to the RCFL to get the download from the phone, and then chain of custody of that phone coming back to the evidence room.
Well, let's look at the dates on this. I think you testified earlier that the soonest you were able to download off of phones, the soonest the sheriffs had the software capability to basically crack a phone and download it without a passcode was December of 2022. Is that what you testified?
Correct.
Okay. And the document that you have in front of you, what is the date that you turned over the phone to the RCFL?
5/4 of 22.
May of 22.
Correct.
Right. And at the bottom, there's a comment. What did you write on the comment?
RCFL for phone dumps.
So tell me what that means.
It means it was released to RCFL to obtain a phone download.
And RCFL, just to clarify for the record, it's the Regional Computer Forensics Laboratory that often does do phone dumps, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you gave it to them in May of 22. When did they return it to you? Or to, when did it get returned? I guess, who's Crowley? Do you know who Crowley is?
Detective Crowley. He was a detective for Summit County Sheriff's Office at the time.
Okay. So when did the RCFL send the phone back? In other words, we're done with it. Here it is. It's back to you.
July of 22.
Again, before you had the capability to crack it without a passcode, right?
Yes.
And when you got the passcode, were you advised, when you got the phone, when you got the phone, were you advised they had a passcode for it?
When I received the phone,
Mhm.
I believe there was a passcode on the property tag of the device.
So you already, and you provided that to RCFL, right?
It was provided, yes.
Okay. Were you on the scene at the search of this home on April the 12th, the 13th of 2022?
Yes, I was.
Did you ever have the phone in your hands that day?
No, I do not believe so.
Were you aware of anyone looking in the phone that day when you all were at the house, at the Richins home?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you prepare the what's it called? The property seizure form from the search that day, or was that not your job?
I'd have to look at the handwriting to verify if it was me or my coworker at the time.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yep.
Your Honor, this will be Exhibit 154.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like that's your handwriting
No.
from what I just looked at. Is that, did you prepare that form?
I did not.
Did you ever see it that day?
Yes.
All right. Can you look through that form? As part of your duties on the scene that day was to kind of make sure that all the evidence that was being gathered was properly accounted for?
Yes.
That was part of your responsibility.
Correct.
Can you look on that form and tell me if you see anywhere that a phone was seized from the home?
There's not on this one.
Let's hand you another document. Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
This is number 155.
Thank you.
I'm going to hand you another form. It's titled Evidence from Search. See the form that says Evidence from Search?
Yes.
Oh, this looks like an Excel spreadsheet, something like an Excel.
Yes,
Did you prepare that?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Okay. On that document, the very last entry refers to an iPhone.
Yes.
All the other documents, or most of them, not documents, things that were seized, appear to be linked on your spreadsheet to where they were found. Is that right?
Correct.
Where does it indicate the phone was found?
I did not have a location of the phone on this document.
So is there any other thing on that document that you don't know where it was found other than the phone? Or is that the only item?
It looks like there's an item that's titled pills and one titled scene photos.
The pills one, does it say how many pills were seized?
Not on the spreadsheet, no.
Right. I think that's all I have, Your Honor.
Mr. Bloodworth.
Can we Can the witness keep that? I'm gonna start.
Yeah, I just want to show this to Alex for 1 second, make
Sure.
sure there's not one more question. Your Honor, we tender the witness. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah. Let's take this one. This one. Mhm.
Let's please pick up where the defense counsel left off. 155, I think it's on there. That's the spreadsheet that you said you prepared. Why did you prepare that spreadsheet?
There's a lot of items regarding this case, and there's also several different case numbers regarding the sheet, so it made it a little bit simpler to combine the several cases onto a spreadsheet at that time.
Was it simply a tool for you to use?
Correct.
Please return to Exhibit 154, the property seizure form. You testified that there's no cell phone identified on that property seizure form. Why is that?
And sorry, there is one on here.
There's one on there.
Yes.
But is this the property seizure form for the Willow Court address, right?
Yes.
And it's not the property seizure form for any property that was seized off of the Willow Court address, is that right?
Sorry, repeat the question.
It's not a form that documents property that was seized off of the Willow Court address, is that correct?
Correct.
So if a phone was seized off of the Willow Court address, you would not expect to see it on that property sheet.
Correct.
Let's return, please, to the discussion regarding the RCFL. You recall looking at the chain of custody form, which transferred custody of the phone from the sheriff's office to the RCFL and back to the sheriff's office, right?
Yes.
Do you know whether or not the RCFL extracted that phone?
Yes, they did.
Did there come a time when the RCFL transferred, I don't know, tell me if it's on a hard drive or however they transfer extractions back to you, the Summit County Sheriff's Office?
Yes. On a hard drive.
Okay, so there came a time when the RCFL transferred the extraction to the Summit County Sheriff's Office, and the Summit County Sheriff's Office has a copy on a hard drive of that extraction.
Correct.
Were you able to access, was the Summit County Sheriff's Office, as far as you know, able to access that extraction?
Not for a while.
And why not for a while?
We did not have the capabilities at the time to look at the download.
Do you know if the Summit County Sheriff's Office ever reviewed that extraction,
Sometime after December of 22,
if at all?
if at all.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can I follow up on that? That was just newly brought in, just very briefly about the extraction.
Yes.
So I want to make sure I understand. So we looked at the fact that you sent the phone to the RCFL in May of 22, right?
Correct.
And they sent it back to y'all saying we're done with it in July of 2022.
Yes.
And then they sent you what they got off of it on a hard drive.
Yes.
And it just took you a while at the sheriff's department to have the software to open their hard drive, right?
Yes.
And have you ever seen, let me back that up. You never went back and got a second hard drive from the RCFL. You just ultimately were able to open the one that they gave you back in July of 22.
Correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. May we release this witness?
Yes,
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
You're free to go. Thank you.
Please hold. Please continue to hold. Your call is important to me. Wait, the illusion of my cabinet's going away. Let me turn the camera. Hey, Kathy, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. How's it going? Be sure to check her channel out, everybody. What's going on? So that was a video that I pulled up over that, y'all. It's obviously not the entire whole thing. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna kind of jump around here for a second. Please continue to hold. So, from things we've determined, hold on. I'm just coming over here. Hold on 1 second. Okay, we did that one. Let's come over here. Hold on. I'm getting another thing pulled up here. You know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna come back over here to y'all. I'm gonna put up another one here. Hold on one second.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury?
Detective O'Driscoll, I want to turn your attention to and discuss your interaction with the defendant on April the 14th, 2023. Do you recall that day?
Yes.
At that point in time, what was your relationship with this case?
I had just been assigned as the lead investigator on the case. I was not familiar with all the details of the case. I was trying to get a fresh perspective and pretty much starting from scratch.
And as part of your start from scratch, did you want to introduce yourself to the defendant?
Yes, I wanted her to know that there had been a change, not only in the assignment of the lead investigator on her case, but there had been some supervisory changes to the investigations division as well.
And when you say her case, you mean the case at that point in time investigating the death of Eric Richins?
Correct.
What was the change to not only you as the lead investigator, but you said, I think, the supervision of the division?
There was a new sergeant over the detectives, the investigation division, Sergeant Hoffmeyer.
So I take it you determined to then personally call on the defendant on April the 14th, 2023.
Correct.
And why personally instead of over the telephone?
It had been a year since Eric's death. I felt it was more professional considering the loss that she'd gone through in the family, and felt that it was more appropriate to show up in person to speak with her and to introduce myself than over the phone.
Okay. There came a time then when you appeared on the doorstep of the Willow Court home where she was then residing. Is that correct?
Correct.
And thus began your interaction with her on that day, right?
Yes.
Did you record that interaction with her?
Yes, I did.
How did you record it?
I had a audio recorder running, and then later I activated a body cam that I had with me.
Okay. Let's talk about the body camera. When did you activate it?
After we were invited into the home and asked to sit down.
And did you activate it roughly contemporaneously with the point on the body cam, or the point on the recording where you say, do you mind if I record this interview, or something to that effect?
Correct.
Can you please describe the body camera, not only how the body camera itself looks, but where it was sitting in relation rather to the defendant?
Yes, I wasn't dressed in a law enforcement uniform, and so I didn't have a mount that's typically available to officers to mount their camera to their body. I just had it loose. It's a small square black body cam that's similar to those worn by patrol officers at that time. And when I activated it, I sat it on the armrest of the couch between myself and Ms. Richins.
Was it in Ms. Richins' plain view the entire time it was active?
Yes.
Does the body camera itself make any noise or light?
Yes.
What noise or light does it make?
It beeps and vibrates every few minutes, and there's a red flashing light that also indicates that it's recording.
And would Ms. Richins, the defendant, have been able to see from the location of the body camera vis-a-vis her, the blinking red light, and hear the vibration and beeping?
Yes.
You mentioned it was similar to body cameras that officers on patrol wore at the time. Was it similar to the body cameras that the officers on patrol were wearing while they interacted with the defendant in the early morning hours of March the 4th, 2022?
Yes, at least some of them were wearing the same body camera.
Have you reviewed both the audio recording and the body camera recording that you made that day?
Yes.
Are those recordings true and accurate?
Yes.
Your Honor, the body camera recording that we're discussing is Exhibit 10, and the transcript is Exhibit 11.
Got it.
Did there come a time when you were on the front stoop of the defendant's home, that she invited you in?
Yes.
And is that accurately reflected in the recording?
Yes.
Did you then, upon her invitation, enter the home?
Yes.
Can you describe how you entered the home, how the home was laid out, and where you and Sergeant Hoffmeyer was with you?
Yes, correct. He was.
Where you, Sergeant Hoffmeyer, the defendant, ultimately the defendant's mother, Lisa Darting, were sitting?
Yes. So the front door of the home opens into a short foyer. Directly in front of the door through the foyer is the main living area of the home. There were couches and love seats in the family room. Miss Richins sat on one end of the couch. I sat on the other end, and Sergeant Hoffmeyer sat in a separate piece of furniture near us. When Miss Darden entered, that Lisa, the defendant's mother, she seated herself on a entertainment center across from the couch on one wall of the living room.
What was your observation of the defendant's mood throughout the conversation?
She seemed very cheery, very open, happy to be talking with us, happy to have the opportunity to talk to investigators. She was outgoing.
At any time throughout your interaction with her on that day, did you observe her cry or become, did you observe tears fall from her eyes?
I didn't see tears, no.
I want to turn your attention to, in the binder before you, tab 12.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the emails at tab 12?
Yes.
What are they?
They are emails that Ms. Richins sent myself and Sergeant Hoffmeyer a few days after we spoke to her in her home.
Do those emails follow up on the conversation and interaction you had with her on April the 14th at the home where she resided?
Yes, she was providing us additional information, follow-ups to the things that we had spoken about in her home. I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct.
And are they true and accurate depictions of those emails? You don't see them altered at all?
No, not as far as I can tell.
I asked you 2 questions, which was sloppy form. Are they true and accurate depictions?
Yes.
Were they altered at all?
Does not appear so.
Thank you. No further questions.
May it please the court. Good afternoon, Detective. We've met before, but Kathy Nestor again on
Yes.
behalf of Ms. Richins. All right, so I want to talk to you about your deciding to go visit Ms. Richins. And you said that you had just been appointed, or not appointed, but assigned to the case, right?
Correct.
How long before?
I'm not sure. Less than a month, I think.
When you were assigned to the case, there was a case file, wasn't there?
Yes, there were different locations that information about the case were stored or recorded.
All right. And you've been a law enforcement officer for some time. I'm certain you didn't go to her house unprepared to interview the primary suspect of a murder, right?
No, not entirely unprepared, but again, the intent to go to the house was not solely to get an interview. It was mainly to introduce ourselves and the change that had happened with Eric Richins' death investigation.
How long would that have taken?
I'm sorry, how long would what have taken?
An introduction.
Not long.
Okay. How long were you there?
3 hours.
Right. Okay. So before you went to her house, isn't it true that the day before you went to her house, you had applied for an affidavit for a search warrant of her phone and a computer?
I'm not 100% positive on dates.
Your Honor, can I approach?
Yep.
I assume the application.
The affidavit was on the. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, thank you.
And from you, a warrant. And Your Honor, if we could just mark this really quick as 150.
Well, Your Honor, that's Exhibit 9 in the state.
Oh, Exhibit 9, great.
He's got a binder of exhibit.
Yeah, I can use this if it's in here.
Okay, if you could turn to that exhibit number 9 in the binder and just look at that for just a moment. And is the affidavit along with the search warrant there in tab 9 or just the warrant?
It has the affidavit.
Okay, can you go to the last date, the last page of the affidavit and tell me the date that you executed it?
It says executed on 13th day of April 2023.
The day before you interviewed Ms. Richins, correct?
Correct.
And in this affidavit, you have multiple pages of why you want to search her phone, right? It looks like basically two pages of facts to support your affidavit,
Yes.
single spaced. And in this affidavit, you refer to things that happened on the night of Mr. Richins' death and things that Kouri had told detectives before you. Is that right?
Yes.
And things the toxicology report had recorded, right?
Yes.
And you refer to an interview that was done of a friend of Ms. Richins that you refer to here as CB, as in boy, where she had been interviewed and that you suspected she had deleted messages, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you interview CB, or are you referring to what someone else did?
I believe in this affidavit, I was referring to an interview that was conducted, that I did not conduct. It was conducted by other officers.
And specifically Detective Woody, correct?
I believe from my recollection, it was Detective Woody and Sergeant Davis.
And she was in charge of the case before you.
Yes.
And you obviously had access to her notes or someone's notes from that meeting with Detective Woody and CB, right?
I don't know if I had access to notes from that interview with CB at that time. From my recollection, what I knew about that interview came from oral statements from Sergeant Davis and Detective Woody.
So you talked to Detective Woody about this case.
Somewhat.
How often did you talk to her?
Not very often.
When did you talk to her first?
I don't recall.
Before you interviewed Kouri Richins?
Yes.
All right. So before you interviewed Kouri, you had enough information about the case to prepare a 2-page affidavit with specific facts that had happened in meetings with Detective Woody, right?
Enough for this affidavit, apparently, yes.
And did Detective Woody provide you with her file from the case?
Again, there's not one file, but yes, I had access to the information about the case.
She had put together.
Yeah, I mean, even from the beginning of Detective Woody's investigation, from what I understand, it was a collaborative effort of multiple investigators.
Okay, but you had what she put together.
Yes.
And you talked to her about it.
Not about all of it, but some of it, yes.
Okay. And you certainly looked at it before you did this sworn affidavit to a judge, right?
Again, not all of it, but some of it, yes.
Because you don't have personal information. You weren't at this meeting with Woody and CB.
No.
Okay. So would you agree with me, sir, that in this affidavit it is extremely clear that Kouri is a primary suspect of this investigation?
I would have to take time to read the whole thing to answer that. I
Please
can't if
do.
you want me to.
She's like, I don't know what I'm going to ask him next. Can't stop looking at his beard. I just want to keep questioning him. She's like, I have one last question. Boxers or briefs? Corey's like, can we get another honey bun break? I am literally dying over here. She was like, look, do y'all mind if I nibble
I've read the whole
on
thing. Could you
this
repeat the
honey
question?
bun?
Yes. Would you agree with me that when you prepared this affidavit that it was clear that Kouri Richins was a primary suspect of your investigation?
No, I wouldn't agree with that statement.
You would not?
No.
You didn't think she was a suspect at this point?
I didn't have definitive information that she was a suspect.
Okay. But you wanted to look in her phone, and you were asking a judge to let you look into a phone, right? Her phone.
Correct.
And you're asking to look into her phone by your own words to see if she tried to obtain fentanyl on her phone.
Yes, that's the part that's recalling my memory is at that time, with the limited information I had, the most important fact that I felt we knew was that Eric died of fentanyl overdose.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest question to me was how the fentanyl got into his system. And in my opinion, there were basically 3 different ways that Eric could have died of a fentanyl overdose. It could have been an accidental overdose,
By
it could have been
Kouri?
suicide, or it could have been a homicide.
Both by
In order
Kouri.
to be thorough, I was trying to investigate all 3 of those possibilities.
So 1 year after he died, you still had no idea whether it was a suicide, homicide, or an accident.
That's correct.
Good night, Josh.
Okay. So you show up have this friendly introduction with Ms. Richins, do you tell her that you had just applied for this affidavit?
No.
And when you say you started from scratch, I mean, you didn't start from scratch. You'd spent a month reviewing the information prior to talking to Kouri, right?
No, I had not spent a full month reviewing that information. I still had a full caseload besides this case. When my time permitted, I reviewed what I could.
Okay, so you reviewed the files, right? Enough to do this affidavit.
Enough to submit this affidavit.
You
Yes.
would talk to the previous case investigator, right?
Yes, but not a full debrief of the case.
Okay, but you'd talk to her, right? You'd reviewed the ME report because you just said that,
Yes, I have.
right? Had you looked at the material that was taken off of her phone previously?
No.
All right, so you show up. You don't tell Kouri that you just applied for a warrant to search her private information. Actually, what you tell her is that you all coach soccer together or something? Is that what you said when you came onto the house?
Your Honor, let me kind of renew this objection. What he told her is documented in audio and video recording. There's no dispute. It's not a game gotcha. It is what it is.
Are you just trying to jog his recollection, lay foundation, or can we just move on?
All three.
Okay, thank you.
All
And
three.
I'm just going to answer that one question. You talked about the fact that you all had ties in the community through soccer coaching and things like that, right?
Correct.
And then maybe she knew your wife or something?
That sounds familiar.
Okay. But you didn't tell her you were investigating her for homicide at any point in those 3 hours?
No.
You also didn't tell her you had a hidden recorder on your person, did you?
It
Can
wasn't.
you be specific at which point?
She was
When you first arrived at her house? Thank you, Your Honor.
she was probably smitten.
No, the
She
intention
told
was
him
not
anything he
necessarily
wanted to
tied.
hear.
The
Most of
audio
us
only
would.
recorder was brought as redundancy in case of failure of equipment technology
Where was it?
in my pocket.
Okay. Did you tell her
It
there
wasn't
was-
visible to her.
Right. Did
But
you
my
tell-
intent was not to hide that I was recording her.
Did you know whether Sergeant, it's Hoffmeyer, right, that was with you?
Correct.
Do you know whether Sergeant Hoffmeyer had a hidden recorder on him?
So our memories have been a bit confused on this point. Originally, I thought I had remembered that he had the recorder. The recorder was his piece of equipment and tools. But I think after listening to the recording from how far away he sounds from the microphone, I think I had the recorder on me. But it was just the one audio recorder and the one body cam.
And you intended to go in there and ask Kouri questions directly about what happened with her husband's death, didn't you?
After she invited us in and consented to having us interview her, yes.
When she invited you in, did you Mirandize her?
No.
Right. Did you know she had a lawyer?
No, I did not.
You did not? All right, let's look at the transcript for just a moment. I believe it is number exhibit 11 in front of you. Can you go to page 7? And can you, literally you guys have maybe exchanged pleasantries and you've only been there like a couple of minutes at this point if it's page 7, right?
Yeah, it looks like about the time we were sitting down.
So can you read what Kouri said to you on line 3 of page 7?
So my attorney has been pushing to, obviously we just wanted her off the case because we're not getting anything done, anything accomplished.
And who's she talking about wanting off the case?
I think she was referring to Detective Woody.
So minutes into your meeting with her, she advised you she had an attorney.
Yes.
And you knew that you were going to elicit information from her that could be used against her. Did you not?
I didn't know what information she would provide. I just wanted to know the facts surrounding the night of his death.
If she had said, hey, I killed my husband, would you have used that against her?
Likely.
Okay. So you didn't Mirandize her at that point. You knew she had a lawyer. You knew you were looking for information about her involvement in her husband's death, and you did not Mirandize her, correct?
Correct.
Did you tell her that she didn't have to meet with you, that you were only there if she wanted you to be there?
I don't remember the exact words that were exchanged before we entered the house, but I didn't say that specifically, no.
You didn't record those, did you?
Yeah, they're recorded on the audio, just not on the body camera.
Okay. Were you wearing a gun?
I think so.
Was Sergeant Hoffmeyer in a uniform?
I think so. I don't remember specifically.
Did he have a gun?
Probably.
Okay. All right. Prior to your meeting with Ms. Richins, when you were applying for the warrant of the phone that had been seized from her in April of 22, did you review the reports about the seizure and the investigation on the 12th?
No.
When you were reviewing Agent Woody's file, do you recall seeing correspondence from her attorney, from Kouri Richins' attorney, instructing that no one investigating the case interview her client again without the lawyer being present?
Your Honor, objection that wildly mischaracterizes the correspondence. The correspondence is in evidence. It says what it says.
Would you rephrase the question?
Do you remember reviewing correspondence from Ms. Richins' attorney in
Why don't we just pause there?
Detective Woody's file?
There you go.
No.
Do you remember discussing it with Detective Woody?
No.
So prior to going to interview the key suspect of a murder investigation, you didn't take 1 minute to check and see if she was represented by counsel after a year?
No.
Thank you, Peachy King.
Your Honor, the state's going to object to this line of questioning. The state renews its objection based on the Sixth Amendment, in that the Sixth Amendment has not yet attached.
So you say, but we're going to have to get into some briefing about whether this proceeding had reached a quote unquote critical stage under the case law and whether it begun to focus on a particular suspect or other critical stage. Let's just get the facts.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your Honor, let me make the record.
Sure.
Let's just get the
Let me finish
facts.
the record on the Sixth. Quick move to the Fifth.
Sure.
I think the Sixth Amendment case law in Utah, it's the Padaki case, says it attaches at arraignment. And so I think it is a clear decision that there is no Sixth Amendment point. Sixth Amendment has not attached at this point in the narrative. Moving to the Fifth Amendment. Your Honor, the Fifth Amendment, of course, attaches when there is a custodial interrogation.
Truth.
And Utah's Perea case, really citing to McNeil v. Wisconsin of the Supreme Court, says one cannot anticipatorily invoke a Fifth Amendment. You need custody before you can invoke the Fifth Amendment. And so all this business about whether the defendant was represented, whether Detective O'Driscoll knew she was represented or otherwise, is immaterial
To the Fifth,
to the Fifth.
not necessarily to the Sixth. We'll see if your citation to Utah case law is correct. But I understand your point regarding the Fifth. I think the Fifth Amendment issues, right, are why they keep asking her if he had a gun on and show of force, free to leave, Mirandized, all that stuff.
Correct. I believe that line of questioning goes to the Fifth Amendment argument.
Correct.
They will one day make.
Right.
But here's the state's concern is the state is certain that we can select a fair and impartial jury from Summit County potential jurors. But the state is very cognizant that the more information, and in this instance, the more false information put into the potential jury pool will make it more difficult and take longer to select those fair and impartial jurors.
But I have shared this concern generally in this case from the first detention hearing, given the level of media attention. But the reason I don't think that cuts one way or the other with respect to Summit County versus Salt Lake County versus, candidly, Washington County is because the outlets that are covering this, 95% of them are national or international outlets or new media outlets on YouTube that do not respect any county boundaries. And so I think the concern you're expressing, while valid, applies to every potential jury pool.
Well, yes, Your Honor, I agree with that. I think we will argue that one day in the future. The reason I mention it is the gratuitous publication of false information through the course of these moving papers and this examination is unhelpful to quickly filing a fair and impartial jury, whether it's Summit or Salt Lake or wherever.
I appreciate your concern. I don't think we are even approaching, never mind beyond the point of no return in that regard. And I'll stay aware and vigilant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just pointing out, Your Honor, all of these materials have come from the state, and this is the
Is
first.
necessary. We can just move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to move now to the search that you did and the arrest. By the way, Kouri was arrested. You sought an arrest warrant for her within a couple of weeks of having a start from scratch interview of her, right?
Yeah, that time frame sounds correct.
So in the space of your interview with her on the 18th, whatever the date is, the 14th, and her arrest on May 8th, which is about 2.5 weeks, in between that time, you decided it was a homicide and she was the one who did it. And that's 3 weeks. Okay. All right. So then you applied for a warrant of her house, which you applied for on May 3rd. And let me approach with this, Your Honor.
Corey's over there like, I knew I should have recognized that he was a cop.
We're going to mark this as exhibit 6.
She was smitten. She's like, sure, you can come and have a seat. What do you want to know? Yeah, I did it. Before she knew it, she had confessed, right?
Oh,
Took him 5 seconds to get a confession.
Please proceed.
By the way, in that period of time between when you had this interview with her and were open to hearing however it happened to death, and the time you issued the warrant for her and the search for her house and her arrest on May 3rd, did you investigate any other potential suspects in that 2.5 week period of time?
To an extent, yes.
And I assume you have reports about that?
Yes.
That you prepared? Okay. I'm not going to go into that here. Okay, so what is the date that you applied for the search warrant to go search her home? When did you ask a judge to give you permission to search her house again, a year later?
May 3rd, 2023.
Okay, so again, like less than 3 weeks after you interviewed her, right? And in
I
this
believe that
interview,
math works.
this
One
warrant,
second. Would you repeat that for us?
I just said I believe that math works out.
Okay. In this warrant that you got, you asked to search for 2 things in the house, right? 2 things.
Correct.
Counterfeit pills and copper cups. That's it.
Yes.
Okay. And that warrant was issued by a judge, correct?
Yes.
And that's the warrant that gave you authority to exercise a search of her house on the day she was arrested, correct?
Yes.
All right. On the day she was arrested, Ms. Richins was located in another location from her home. She was down in Salt Lake. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were there at the location where the arrest took place, right?
Correct.
And other officers or deputies were involved in the search of the house up in Camas.
Correct.
And while you were, let me see really quick. While you were arresting Ms. Richins, when you arrested her down in Salt Lake, did she have a phone on her at that time?
Yes.
On her person?
It was in her hands. Yes.
And when she stepped out of the car, what did you tell her to do with that phone?
She didn't step out of a car.
You pulled her out?
No. She was exiting a business building.
Okay.
And I approached her while she was walking out.
Sorry, my bad. So when you approached her, what did you tell her to do with the phone?
I didn't tell her to do anything with the phone.
What did she do with the phone?
Your Honor, objection. This seizure is not the subject of any of the 3 motions that today's hearing set for.
I think that's right. Isn't that right?
No, it's relevant to Mr. Ramos's
Electronic
motion.
data.
Yes, because I'm just identifying the foundation of where that phone came from.
Your Honor, that motion, the electronic data motion, challenges the 4 corners of the warrant itself. The actual seizure of the phone is irrelevant, other than the fact that it was seized pursuant to that warrant.
Yeah, forgive me. I listened back to our discussion regarding burdens.
Mhm.
Is there anything about the execution of that warrant that defendants believe was unreasonable?
About the execution of the warrant of arrest?
The search warrant, or is it that you believe the phone was seized without the benefit of a
I'm
warrant?
about to get into the statements she made at the time of her arrest prior to Miranda that directly deal with the phone that was in her hand. So I'm just laying a foundation for which phone it is and what they say to her, what they get her to say.
Your Honor, none of that information is relevant to the 3 pending motions.
Yeah, forgive me. This is new to me. I don't know that have you filed a Rule 12b3 motion that regards this topic? Help me out. We just need to make sure the state had noticed that this was coming.
I'm grabbing it in just a minute.
Do you remember that case where they set up that woman who was trying to hire someone to kill her husband?
Correct me
He
if
might
I'm
have
wrong,
even
Ms.
been a
Nestor.
cop.
I believe it's undisputed that Kouri was arrested. A phone was seized from her during the course of the arrest.
Right.
2 hours later, a warrant was issued with respect to the contents of that phone, correct?
Right. We are not actually challenging the search of the phone. I am dealing with the issue of the statements that she made after her arrest. But
That topic is not, and forgive me if I missed it, that topic is not a part of Mr. Ramos.
hold on just one moment, Your Honor.
Yep,
Can I talk about
no problem.
But when they used the person to set her up, he was like this other super hot cop. Yeah, Dapolito in Florida.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I got confused.
Remember that?
I don't need to go into that.
Yeah.
So I will move on. That is a different issue.
Okay, very good.
Okay. So you're down there, you're with her when she's being arrested. Meantime, there's officers searching her home up in Camas, right?
Correct.
And at some point, you get a phone call from
Good night,
one of the officers
Jules.
on the scene. Is that right?
I don't recall. I'm sure I took lots of phone calls that day.
Did they advise you that they had found something in the search that was not within the permission of the warrant?
I don't recall.
Recall being told.
Go ahead, Mr. Bloodworth.
Your Honor, I think this goes to the seizure of the orange notebook, which is issue 4 in the defense motion to suppress statements and evidence.
Right.
As we discussed last Thursday, the state has conceded that the state seized that notebook on May the 8th, 2023, beyond the scope of the warrant.
She's
that
like, we
Ms.
can
Nestor is
see your
suggesting.
Tinder profile is pulled up.
The state,
sir.
I understand, will
Thank
be arguing
you.
inevitable discovery.
Yes, Your Honor, and that argument relies exclusively on paper, various warrants, their tabs. I think it's
We'll get there.
Right,
We
yeah,
don't need
that
to name
cop-
them all now.
and then she
13
like
through
buried her
17.
head on his
Okay.
chest. It was like so
point being is-
obvious.
this examination
She was like,
is nothing more than to prove
I
that
haven't told
fact
you
that
what
the state
happened
has
yet.
conceded.
I think that concession matches my notes after re-listening to the last status conference with counsel. Anything else we need from this witness regarding the orange notebook?
Yes.
Proffer for me what else it is you need.
Your Honor, all the steps that are made and the chronology of the steps that are made about the search file into my entire fruit of the poisonous tree argument. I need to lay a foundation. If I ever need on appeal, I need to be able to make clear the steps that they went through to,
Respect to the orange notebook?
yes,
Once they have it, though, outside the scope,
yes.
it's a problem that they now need to invoke some kind of exception to fix. Isn't it the steps after the orange notebook that would be relevant to the fruit of the poisonous tree?
That's what I'm getting to right now. I just asked him about the orange notebook
Okay.
and what he does next. I mean, that's where I'm going.
My apologies. Okay.
No worries. Okay, so may I proceed? I'm sorry. So you get this call that they find a notebook in her house, right?
I don't.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, I don't know that we're fully clear on this issue.
Hey, USA.
Let me sound out what I understand is the possible benefit of this. Are you preserving the ability to argument that there was a gap in time between when the notebook was actually found and when it would have inevitably found?
Yes.
And during that gap in time, they learned some things that is
Yes.
fruit of the poisonous tree.
Yes.
Here's the gap I'm not sure we're square on, Your Honor. State has conceded that the search on May 8th that discovered the contents of the orange notebook
Right.
was beyond the scope of the initial May 8th warrant to search the home. Based on the information obtained from the orange notebook,
At that time.
on May 8th, there was a second warrant written to search the home on
The
May
orange
8th
notebook.
for a notebook. The state is conceding that that second warrant, the portion of that second warrant to search for notebooks, there were other collateral issues that don't touch on this, was invalid because it relied on information discovered in the notebook pursuant to a search beyond the original warrant.
Okay.
The state's inevitable discovery argument is about warrants that occurred way after May 8th. All the information those warrants relied on are in the affidavits of probable cause for those warrants.
May we pause here for just a moment? I think this discussion would be more detailed and fruitful if you both weren't worried about seeding the public record with a bunch of stuff you don't want potential jurors to know about. That is a sufficient basis to close these proceedings briefly to have a more detailed discussion about this topic. So everybody who is on that side of the bar, including all of you, I need you to step out now.
Ooh. He said, get on out.
The WebEx link is unmuted. Mr. Bloodworth, sir, you're under oath, correct?
Mr.
Yes, very good.
Bloodworth.
Mr. Bloodworth, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, for the record, the state is called and the clerk has sworn Clint Benson. Mr. Benson, are you familiar with the trust relating to the estates of Eric Richins?
Yes.
And who is the trustee of that trust?
Katie Richins Benson, well, it'd be the Eric Richins Trust. And then Katie Richins Benson would be over that trust.
And what, if any, relationship do you have with Katie Richins Benson?
I'm her husband.
Are you familiar with the Willow Court address where Eric Richins lived?
Yes.
Does the trust own the Willow Court address?
Yes.
Does the trust have control, like physical control over the Willow Court address?
Yes.
Did the trust gain physical control over the Willow Court address upon the defendant's arrest on May the 8th, 2023?
Yes.
Who, on behalf of the trust, has controlled access to the Willow Court property?
That would be me. So after Kouri's arrest, locks were changed, cameras were installed, and I've monitored all access to that property.
Okay. In monitoring all access to the property, other than law enforcement, who, if anyone, has entered the property?
We have had Todd Gabler has entered the property.
And let me just break you there. Is Todd Gabler an investigator retained by the state in connection with the civil litigation?
Correct.
Other than law enforcement and Todd Gabler, has anyone entered the home?
We did have one instance where it was a bank matter where someone did try
Finally,
to enter
yes,
the
it
home.
is.
Law enforcement was quickly called, and he was stopped at the garage man door and garage entrance.
Okay. To wrap a little specifics around that, a bank holding a lien on the property had asked a locksmith to go to the house and change the locks. Is that right?
Correct.
Thanks, Lori.
When that person was at the house to change the locks, that generated a call to the police.
Correct.
Deputy Shane Norton responded to that call,
Yes.
and he contacted that locksmith in the garage before that locksmith entered the house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Other than police, Mr. Gabler, and the locksmith, has anybody else entered that house?
I did have assistance from a family member on installing cameras in that home, but that was right after Kouri's arrest, and that would be it.
Have you personally escorted those who've entered the home?
Yes.
In each instance, I guess, except for that locksmith who was trying to change the locks?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. In escorting anybody that entered the home, did you observe anybody bring something from inside the home and place it, or sorry, something from outside the home and place it inside the home?
Never. No, that's never occurred.
Other than police removing items from the home pursuant to warrants, have you seen anybody remove any items from the home?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Good afternoon. Mr. Benson, you and I have met before, but just to remind you, my name's Kathy Nestor. Okay. So your wife is the trustee of a trust that the house has been folded into. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's litigation surrounding that trust at this time. Is that right?
That's
Civil litigation.
correct. Yep.
And since the day that Kouri was arrested, the family was not aware she was going to be arrested, right?
No,
And she has 3 young sons,
correct.
and they were at school.
I believe so. I was not there when that occurred. So
Your Honor, objection relevance as to what this has to do with the state's direct examination regarding security of the home.
Because I think she's laying foundation that there was a time when some stuff was taken out of the home regarding the kids. But I think we could just fast forward to.
I'll get to it.
Thank you.
After Kouri was arrested, someone who was not a member of your immediate family was the guardian for a brief time of those children. Is that right?
correct.
And those children had to come back and get their things out of the house?
I believe so. Yep.
Yeah. And they were with that other person that was not you?
They came to the home, but I believe I was there when they arrived to do that, and they were escorted.
And in fact, hasn't there been, in another matter, hasn't there been an order entered that the children are permitted to go into the home to get items whenever they need it?
They are permitted, but they have not gone to the home.
At least once they did.
Not to my knowledge.
You just said they went in there with their guardian.
No, you asked if someone had gone to the home, but it was the guardians that had gone to the home to pick up their stuff.
Oh, okay. So the children weren't with them?
Correct.
Oh, sorry. I didn't understand. That's what you were saying. I apologize. So the guardians were there at least once?
They were there once, to my knowledge.
Okay. And Mr. Gabler has been in the home, correct? And Mr. Gabler's been assisting this prosecution with providing them with reports and interviews and all kinds of things to assist this prosecution. Is that right?
Your Honor, objection. Anything Mr. Gabler's provided has been pursuant to subpoena.
We can keep moving here, Ms. Nestor.
Mr. Gabler's working with this prosecution team, as far as you know. He's provided them with materials for however he provided it to them.
Correct.
All right. And he had authority to be in that home because he was working for your family. Is that right?
I wouldn't say he had authority to be in that home. He was accompanied by me when he was in that home.
How many times did he go in that home?
I don't recall the exact number.
More than 5?
I don't recall.
More than 20?
Not more than 20.
Okay. So less than 20 times, but more than once or twice.
Correct.
And when Mr. Gabler would go in there, he did search for items that he thought would be relevant and helpful to the prosecution, didn't he?
I believe so.
Your Honor, renewing the objection.
I think Ms. Nestor is about to move on to a new
I am.
topic.
Okay. And the times that the warrants were executed, we just took some testimony about 4 different warrants that have been executed since Kouri's arrest on the house. 4 times. Were you there for each time they did the warrants?
Yes.
And you saw the searches every time?
I would let them into the home to perform the search.
Okay. And how many people would be in the house, give or take, when that was going on?
You're talking 4 searches, so you'd have to be more detailed.
How many officers would you see? Typically, was it 1? Was it multiple officers that would come in?
It would be more than 1.
So you couldn't be with all of them the whole time, right?
Correct.
How big is the house?
It's 4,300 square feet.
Okay. And there's multiple floors, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And how long did those searches take, average, when they would go in and search under these last 4 warrants over the past 12 months?
It depended upon the case and what they were looking for. So it was dependent upon the warrant.
And as the trustee, the person that would be present, did they tell you what they were looking for?
No, in some instances they would, some they wouldn't. So
Tell me the instances you remember in the last 12 months what they were looking for.
I don't recall the exact items. There were a lot of items.
Okay, so they did take items out of the house every time?
I don't recall if it was every time, but they did give a list of items that were taken on the, in regard to the warrant.
All right. And the first time the house was searched, did it appear like was the house in disarray after the search? In other words, were things thrown on the floor? Was there?
Would you pause for 1 second,
Yep.
Ms. Nestor?
Your Honor, this is beyond the scope and irrelevant.
I think this is beyond the scope of the motions you filed. I don't recall any arguments regarding unreasonable execution of a warrant.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
I think we need to move on.
Has Katie been in the house?
No.
Never? Not since the death of her? Not since the funeral?
Hold on.
Sorry. Let me
Could you
rephrase.
redefine the time period
Not
that you're
since
describing?
not since the time of Kouri's arrest. Katie has not been in the house,
She has not,
and Amy has not been in the house,
not that I recall.
and your father has not been in the house.
He hasn't been in the house. No. He's there. You'd have to be more specific. Do you mean the house or the detached garage? What
Anywhere
I'm
on the
talking
property.
about? He has been on the property.
Okay. Were you present on the day of Kouri's arrest when they were searching the home?
I was not.
Were you the person that came and changed the locks that day, or did someone else do that?
I didn't change locks. We hired a person to come and change locks.
So you personally didn't appear at the house that day?
I was at the house.
Were you there while the search was ongoing?
No, I don't believe so.
So do you know how many people went inside and outside the house that day?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. We need to move on.
Do you know you were not at the house the day that the arrest happened?
Your Honor, He
Judge?
just testified that he was.
Yeah, you're going to have to be more specific, and we're going to have to move on. You
I
need to
will.
stay
I will.
reasonably tethered to the motions that the defense has filed.
The day that Kouri was arrested, there was a lot of people on the property. Is that correct?
Law enforcement.
And were there others?
I don't remember seeing anybody but law enforcement there, as well as a locksmith to change the locks.
Were you there the entire day?
I was not there the entire day.
What portion of the day were you there? An hour, half an hour, 6 hours?
Just as long as it took the locksmith to change the locks.
So at the very end, when they were finished.
Correct, I believe so. I
Okay.
don't recall.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anything else for this gentleman?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
May we release this witness?
Yes, sir.
You're welcome to step down. Thank you. Do you mind pouring your water? And that's my third. Thank you.
I mean, good Lord.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bloodworth.
Did you hear him? He said, pour your water in the plant. He said, this thing's just falling over.
Your Honor, the state has no further witnesses on this first motion to suppress statement and evidence.
And so I believe this is the point where the state would say all burdens either are with or have shifted to the defense. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Nestor, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Ramos, give me a sense of where we're headed.
Can I approach for just 1 minute?
Sure.
Mr. Rhodes?
I don't know if I'll make it through this whole video on this one. Ouch. Corey's like, look, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. If you do go through with what we were talking about, absolutely don't write a kid's book about it. Okay, that's like the one advice I would give you. Really above, even over doing the fentanyl and ice in Moscow, don't write a kid's book about it. He's like, what about an adult book? No, don't write the adult book either. Just like literally don't write about the crime. Like seriously, like, I mean, here we are, right? What if I write a little essay? She's like, I'm gonna make out with you. Oh, is that Eric's sister? Is that who's just on the stand?
All right, Ms. Nestor.
I mean,
Your Honor,
that's good.
we believe there's sufficient evidence on the record for us to brief at this time. We're not going to call any more witnesses on my motion. The only two left are Mr. Ramos and then Ms. Lewis's.
Ms. Lewis, tell me, your motion is
The 6-page document.
to suppress the letter?
Yes.
And who do we need to call, if anyone, on
You have
that?
the two officers who did the search of the jail cell.
Okay, are they present?
I think
Oh, we're getting
Your
into
Honor,
that letter.
they're both
Okay, here we
working in
go.
the back. I need about 2 minutes on each, but I need a break anyway.
That's no problem. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll see how far we get with that, okay?
Got it.
Thanks, folks. Thank you. Court will be in recess for 5 minutes. Thank you.
involved at that time in a search that took place of the pod and the cell of Ms. Kouri Richins.
Yes.
All right. So could you tell me what initially led to the search at that time?
Do you have a specific search?
Yes, let's start with, I believe there was a search of Ms. Richins' cell on September 13th of 2023.
So Miss Richins had a medical episode, and so there was a brief search initially after medical had treated her. And that was a quick search to look for any obvious contraband left over from EMS personnel. And then shortly after that, there was indication that there was possibly something held up on a video chat.
I'm going to ask you about that, but let me just take it one step at a time. So initially she was taken out of the jail for a medical
Correct.
situation.
Yep.
And there was a search on September 13th, and all you were looking for was if anything was left behind by the EMTs. Is that correct?
Initially, yes.
And then when was it you became aware of a video call that led you to want to search the cell further?
So as while she was away from the jail, that was brought to my attention that there was possibly something held up in a video chat. So we searched the cell looking for a piece of paper with cursive handwriting on it.
And that search took place on September 14th. Is that correct?
13th, I believe, is my dates.
So, all right, so the first search on September 13th, you
Correct.
didn't seize anything from her cell at that time. Is that correct?
No.
And you believe the second search was September 13th?
So there was an initial search of just immediately nothing to do with any case. It was just a contraband search of any medical items left over in the immediate area. And then while she was away, there was a indication that there was possible issues with a video conversation where she held up a piece of paper.
And on that occasion, did you search just her cell or did you search the entire pod?
It was just her cell in that one.
All right, and that was also September 13th?
Yes.
And nothing was collected on that search either, correct?
Nope.
So what led to the search on September 14th of the pod and Ms. Richins' cell?
So there was random cell searches of two different sections, Golf Pod and Bravo Pod. And then also with her medical condition, she was going to be moved to a different cell for observation.
All right. Alex, can you just put on, I'm going to show you some videos of the search
Okay.
on September 14th. We'll try not to go through every single one of them. Could you start pulling up? It's States Exhibit 69, but it's number 8 on our list. And before we start that, well, actually, no, go ahead. Let's put that on, Alex. Thank you.
Your Honor, can I just offer the court some context? The video system, because it's so data heavy.
Ask him about it, but
Oh, okay,
I'll ask him.
that's fine.
That's fine. Okay, yeah, just don't pause it for now. So before we start, can you tell me, is that you in the video there?
Yes.
And which of those cells belongs to Ms. Richins?
I believe at this time Ms. Richins was in 4, which is upstairs.
In fact, it's the top right cell. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah.
That one that is being pointed to on
Yep.
screen. All right. And the video camera is, where's that video camera?
It's elevated. It's on the back wall.
Is that the only camera in that pod?
It is, yes.
And
Next to an observation cell that's in cell 5.
where's that at? Can you,
It is the bottom left corner.
that we can see? Or
It's,
left corner over there.
yeah, so that will be just directly in the cell. It won't view anything else.
All right. So who runs the video camera?
What do you mean?
Is there someone in charge?
It's
of
on. It's like an ongoing thing. Observation cells can be turned on and off.
Is the video camera run all the time or just?
It's the main section cell, yes.
All right. And that video camera, as we're going to see in these videos, it freezes a lot. Is that correct?
I believe it is a motion based.
You believe it's emotion based?
Yes.
So if it's not,
If there's no movement. I don't believe it records until it senses movement.
all right. We'll talk about that as we look where some of it is where nothing is moving. Who is it that collects the videos from that camera?
I believe it is our administrative sergeant,
Who is that?
Sergeant Thomas.
And is he the one that would have provided the videos that we have in evidence at this time?
Just play
He'd
it.
probably be one of them.
Alex, can you just play that video? Now, these videos, I think each is about 1:30, but it's an ongoing search,
I
right?
love it,
They're
Dwayne.
happening one right after the other. And
And is this of the 13th?
I believe this is the 14th.
Okay.
I believe. If I'm wrong, please correct me. Let me ask you while we're looking at this. So the stuff that's on the tables downstairs, is that stuff that's been taken out of cells, or is that stuff that was just left by inmates?
Without knowing exactly what date of this search, I can't see the date, but that looks like it's indicative of somebody being in the day room, inmate wise, and then being either locked down or moved abruptly.
Your Honor, if I may.
One moment. Okay.
You can't see it, but if you were to shrink the video, the date and time are in the top left corner. The video of the 14th and the time and date stamp are on the video.
Remind me the exhibit number for this one.
This is States Exhibit 69. All right. So go ahead, Alex. In the video there, you've just entered Ms. Richins' cell. Is that correct?
That appears to be me, yes.
And she doesn't share that cell with anyone, or she didn't, correct? She was there alone. So what is it you're doing here?
I would be looking, if this was on the 14th, this would be doing a search and then also gathering up her belongings and moving it down to cell 5.
Oh, that's okay, because she was moving to cell 5.
Correct.
All right. Now, this was after you had already searched for handwritten notes the day before.
Yes, the cursive letter.
All right, Alex, it's okay. Let's go on to the next video, which is States Exhibit 70. That's number 9. I'm just going in order. Can you zoom in a bit, Alex, on the cell so we can maybe see better what's... It's a little bit difficult, but okay, there we go. So what is it that you are right there in your hand? It looks like you have an envelope.
Correct.
And is that an envelope that you had looked at the day prior?
I observed it, yes.
But you didn't look in it that
Not
day?
looking at it, no.
Now, is this the envelope that on the front has Ms. Richins' prior attorney's name?
I believe that would be the one.
Okay. And it says attorney privileged or something to that
I don't recall it
effect.
saying that. I just recall it saying Sky Lazaro, who I knew was her attorney at the time.
All right. And if a report indicated it said attorney privilege, do you have any reason to disagree with that?
I didn't see that, so
You don't recall?
I don't recall seeing that on there. But
Okay. So on this search, you opened that envelope, correct?
Yes.
And
Thank
Go
you,
ahead, Alex,
Dwayne,
play it
for
out loud.
gifting 5 memberships.
what was it you found in that envelope?
in inspecting that envelope, there was numerous paperwork. There was obvious court heading, court minutes. There was some what appeared to be like some cards that were made from children. I didn't observe any obvious other contraband.
There were handwritten notes in that envelope,
Yes.
correct? Quite a few, isn't it?
Yeah.
Accurate. There were a lot of handwritten notes. And you looked through those notes that day?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm no one bad at that. We'll try harder. All right. Let's just go to Exhibit 71, Alex, number 10.
Let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to that dog walking book.
Can you tell me who the other two individuals are who are coming towards the cell at this point?
That is Deputy Watts, and that is Sergeant Thomas in the bottom, and then the one in the white shirt is our nurse.
All right. Now, were you still going through the papers in the envelope at that time?
Yes.
Can you give us a rough idea of how many pages were in that envelope?
Hundreds. It was, yeah.
So what did you do with the papers that were in that envelope after this search?
After the search, they were put back in as best as I could, back into the manila folder.
And given back to Ms. Richins?
It was left in her property and then put back in her cell when I moved her to 5,
And is it your testimony that none of the papers in that envelope were seized?
to my knowledge.
All right. Let's skip to State Exhibit 74, number 13.
Say the date again.
State Exhibit 74.
What was the next thing you said?
Oh, I was just telling Alex what number it was in our
Got it.
list. All right, I think a lot of this is frozen. Let it run and it'll start to move. Now, is that Sergeant Thomas standing outside the door?
Yes.
What are you doing during this time? Do you recall?
I recall I'm still searching the folder.
All right. At some point during this search, there is a document found that is a 6-page document that is, I believe, at docket number 214, which says walk the dog on the top. Are you familiar with that document?
Yes,
Are you the one that found that document?
I am not.
Okay. Did you view the document that day?
I cannot specifically recall. I remember Sergeant Thomas, when he indicated he had found it, that was maybe a brief look at it.
All right.
But did not get a good description of it at that time.
You read that document at another time?
Not specifically like full on, but got more of a briefing from it.
So the documents were in the envelope that you were going through. Are you aware if some of those documents have since been found to be privileged documents?
Good night, Tracy.
Are you asking me were they in that envelope? That I
Well,
was
no, what I'm
searching?
asking you if the documents that you were reading that were in the envelope contained privileged documents.
Yes, I wasn't reading them though.
Well, you were going through, you said hundreds of documents.
Yeah.
So you would have had to have at least read some to get an idea of what they were, correct?
Inspecting, looking at the heading on it. Like court paperwork to me is pretty obvious, like headings.
Well, there were a lot of handwritten documents in that envelope, correct?
Correct.
And you determined not to seize any of those documents, correct?
Mhm.
And you, as you were reading those documents, you determined that some of them were privileged and you should stop reading them, correct?
I didn't read them.
Then how did you know what they were?
Just glancing at them.
Okay.
She said, look.
Let's go to State Exhibit 75, which is 14. And so right now you can see it appears this is frozen, correct?
It appears so. I see the timer moving in the corner, but no movement.
All right. So sometimes it detects, now it starts. So sometimes it detects movement in the cell and other times it doesn't. Is that correct?
To my knowledge, it responds on movement, so I don't know why it would be not moving or not recording.
Is that you on the left side of the bunk? I can't tell. Or are you on the
No, I'm on the right, on the foot of the bed.
foot of the bed? So what is it that you are searching at this time?
I believe I'm still looking at the items in the middle envelope.
All right. And we'll have Sergeant Thomas here in a minute so we can ask him what he's looking at.
Okay.
So I won't ask that with you. So it's still the same envelope that had her former attorney's name on it, Ms. Richins' former attorney's name on the front.
Correct.
All right, then let's go ahead and skip to State's Exhibit 76, which is 15. And if we could zoom in on the corner. Now, what I would like you to take a look at here, this video, it's frozen for some time, but then let's see what happens when it unfreezes. This is 15, right? I'm sorry, we can't pinpoint the exact spot, but these videos aren't too long, so. It's still moving.
He's like, man, I hope I didn't do anything wrong.
All right, the envelope that's in your hand right there, that's the envelope we've been talking about. Is that right?
Correct.
And Sergeant Thomas is looking at some other papers, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Do you know what he's looking at
I
this
do
time? All right, then we'll discuss that to him. Let's skip to, and I believe 16, the entire thing is frozen. I'm sorry, State Exhibit 77. Let's skip to 78. And while we're doing that, let me ask you. So when Sergeant Thomas found the 6-page document that says walk the dog on top, did he tell you about it right when he found it?
He made indication that he thought he had found something.
And did he make indication as to where he had found it?
I don't recall.
Okay.
I think he said it could have been in a book. I'd have to review my report.
Go ahead, thanks.
She's like,
I think when this
sir,
eventually unfreezes, it's going to show you carrying a bin down the stairs. Do you get occasion to look at these videos very often?
Say again?
Do you get occasion to look at videos from that camera very frequently?
Yes, I have the capability to review video.
Is it always these large gaps where nobody's moving?
If there's nobody moving, it won't record.
Well, are there always gaps where, I mean, you are moving in the cell and it comes on and off? Is that how it always is, or is this unusual?
I haven't come across a situation like this
So this is the first time you've seen big frozen gaps?
with
where-
the timer moving and no.
He's got her honey buns.
So
This
you're
is
not
where
walking
he
downstairs
runs off
with
with the
a
honey
bin.
buns.
Now, did you put everything in that bin yourself, or was that stuff that was already in a bin in her cell?
I gathered her items up. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was items in there, but all her items in her cell I did gather.
So you put those all into the bin?
It may not have been all of them, but I put some in them. There may have been items in it already, but there was stuff added to it for sure. Yes.
Are you aware of a book she had in her cell that was an LSAT study book?
Not at that time.
You weren't aware of it at that time?
Correct.
So you aren't aware if that is something you put in that bin?
No, I wasn't aware of it.
All right. What was your involvement after this in the rest of this search, after you searched the envelope?
To gather her items up and move it to the cell that you saw me move the box to.
All right. Did you personally seize anything from the cell during that search that was?
I did not know.
So you didn't take anything out of the cell. Everything was put back in the envelope or in the bin and moved to her new cell?
Correct.
Okay. I just have one moment.
Yeah, imagine if they arrest him on the stage
I don't have
on the
anything further
thing.
from Sergeant Barrett.
Mr. Bloodworth?
The honey bun bandit. Sir, do you know what a honey bun is? Specifically a Carolina Reaper.
Sergeant
honey
Barrett, you're
bun.
familiar with what I mean when I say the walk the dog letter, right?
Yes.
Docket 214, but every law nerd on the internet calls it the walk the dog letter. When you searched manila envelope marked with Ms. Lazzaro's name, did you seize the walk the dog letter?
I did not.
In the videos that Ms. Nestor just showed you, when you're standing at the foot of the bed, are you going through the hundreds of pages in that manila envelope at that time?
I was, yes.
Let's talk about the size of the bed real quick. Is it a normal, say, 6.5 foot-ish bed?
Correct. Metal bunk, yes.
So when you're at the foot of the bed and you see Sergeant Thomas in the video at the head of the bed, he's about 6 feet plus away from you. Is that correct?
I would say that's accurate, yes.
Thank you.
Can I ask one follow-up?
Sure.
Did you actually see Sergeant Thomas get what is known as the walk the dog document?
I did not.
And seize that?
I did not know.
So you don't know where that came from based on your own knowledge?
Correct. I do not know.
Was Sergeant Thomas also looking in the envelope?
I did not see him look at that envelope.
I don't have anything further.
May we release this witness?
Yes, and we would call Sergeant Thomas.
Okay, y'all. This is all I can take for this evening. Let's talk for a minute, and then I gotta log off. Look at me. I'm sugar crash. Okay, so yeah, I thought that. So when I pulled the original video up, I was like, oh, it's an hour. We'll watch this. I didn't know it was just like a portion of it. And then when I saw this, I was like, this is 2.5 hours. I was like, well, let's see what's in it. This is a very long hearing. I didn't realize it was hours and hours long. This is the gist of it, right? So they call it the Honey Bun Bandit. It turns out to be one of the COs. That's what this whole hearing was about. Okay, forget throwing their evidence out. They got the Honey Bun Bandit. You know that dude's in there. He's like, never again will I look at paperwork when I do a shakedown. It's like he's up here like the walk the dog document, sir. And were you standing at the foot of the bed with the walk the dog document in your hand? I mean, it's just like, oh my gosh. I see. Dwayne, is your birthday? If so, happy birthday. Wait, can you put the link to this incident? Chat. Wait, what do you mean? Do you mean to the video we were just watching? Is that what you're talking about, Emily? Oh, happy birthday Sunday. Happy early birthday then, Mr. Dwayne. I hope it is a lovely one for you. Okay, yeah, hold on. So please hold. Okay, we have Kouri. Bam. 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 Did that come through? That's the video we were just watching. That's the video we were just watching. So, I mean, interesting enough. I mean, and, kind of watching or whatever. And like, yeah, granted, I get like the little back and forth. Number one, clearly the judge is easy on the eyes, right? clearly so are most of the dudes involved with the whole thing, right? I mean, like that one cop up there, I'm like, oh, please, Kouri just was like, no questions asked, come on in. You know what I'm saying? He's like, well, it's funny, she started confessing to things or whatever. I haven't told her I was an investigator. So, but the judge, what I like, excuse me, what I like about the judge, well, I mean, several things, right? But he's really moving it along. He seems very fair. He seems very like boom, boom, boom. Here you go. Let's move it along. Well, what's this? Here we go. It just, I like it when they keep it going. And it's not, well, hold on, everybody. Well, hold on. It's just, let's keep it moving, everybody. The defense, yes, she has, a little bit of the defensey thing, but I mean, it is what it is. She's just going through the motions, right? Because this is such, I don't want to say it's complicated, but it's just, the parties involved, cough, cough, Kouri, are complicated. Oh yeah, so the cringe, the book club thing. So just so y'all know, for people who are like gonna log out, the book club is going to be tomorrow evening at 7:00. We're going to be reviewing Sherry Frankie's book. That's what we read this last month. And then we're starting, I've already started, A Foreign Faction. That's the book on, one of the books on JonBenet. I've been slowly going through that and whatnot, and I'm starting with that one because obviously there's tons of different books out there. But that one's one that so many people talk of and whatnot. Even if you're not down for that theory, it gives you a lot of insider information. Yeah, I'm curious to see, because Kouri does have that intensity, like when she's even sitting there, whatever. Now, I'll say this, for being incarcerated as long as she has, she looks still very like together, right? She just seems, like she's stressed out. She does seem like she might have gotten, which is odd, like she's lost weight, but maybe she's nervous or whatever. I don't know. But she just seems way more put together than we're used to seeing. So, yeah, so something clever says the news says that judge will make a decision later. Yeah, we'll see what he says. That's all we can do, is just kind of sit by and see what happens. Yeah, she just has like this vacantness to her, meaning Kouri, where it's just like, I mean, I feel like her family is still probably very supportive of her, and like she didn't do this, and very stoic. Yeah, the way she's sitting over there, just with that like look on her face, like, here we go. Let's question them. What are they doing? Yeah, I would think that she's got money on the books. I would think she has like all the little comforts. Yeah, the mineral water, doing all sorts of things. Right. So I'm really surprised. Yeah, so Spencer, so usually what it is, it's for channel members and the Patreon members. And so the way it goes typically is we have like once a month. It depends on the thing. I think we already did one members chat about it, but at minimum we do one members like live chat about it. And then I usually will like either post shorts or little member videos, like with some thoughts along the way and whatnot. Some more than others. This book, I posted a lot about it because I was really into the book. Oh yeah. And so G says she's got men sending her money like that wacko Susan Smith. Kouri's got a lot of men probably lined up, right? Yeah, and he says it's the eyes, there's nothing there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's 100%. She's got that vacant thing going. She's got that vacant thing going. That's right. Sandy brings up the fact, which is true. Her mom's partner also died, and her mom got a lot of money. There's a lot of shadiness. Yeah, the deer. Yeah, Dwayne, a deer in the headlight look, completely. Just we'll at one point rewatch as it gets closer and whatnot. We'll pull up some of like that interview she did with the book and all that. I mean, yeah, I feel bad for her kids too. Because I mean, imagine that. I mean, her kid. Look, can you imagine? Can you imagine? Thank God they're with one of Eric's family members. Bye, Peachy. Thanks for joining. Yeah, because no matter what, once the dust is settled, air quotes, it's never settled. Look at what happened. Your dad's gone, and this is what's become of your mother. Whether they stand by her or believe her or whatever, is going to be their choice, but their lives this is going to be, not to say it's like, oh, their lives are dictated from this, but I mean, this is like setting things on a trajectory. You know what I mean? Like, obviously. So yeah, Strauss has traumatized her whole life. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it will be like a defining moment. All the questions I think you would have, like, imagine the conversations that she had with them, especially writing that book about grieving. And then you're sitting there like, but if mom did this, then she said this over here. Like, you would just be raking back over that through the years. And you know how, like, it's each segment in life, you have hindsight to go back and knowledge and experience. Like, you would always be looking back in that lens and coming to different realizations throughout life about her, So USA, I believe one of Eric's siblings, right? Is it Eric's sister that has the kids, or one of the husband's family members has the kids? So yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna run before I start yawning at y'all even more. So that is it. Thank you, Indy. Thank you, Emily, for holding the sofa down and keeping the sofa cushions fluffed. Happy early birthday, Dwayne. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Thank you for super chats. Thank you for the laughs. Thank you for the good conversation. Thank you for busying my Friday evening and keeping me entertained. I greatly appreciate it. And for all the insights into the chat room, I appreciate all the different perspectives. So that's it. I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. I'll see some of you tomorrow evening around 7:00. I'll do a post. I'll post it in the morning because I'm literally gonna pass out for that. And that's it. So y'all have a good night. Sleep tight. Sweet dreams. I will see y'all tomorrow.